Chapter 149 Life-Death Contract. Chapter 149 Life-Death Contract. Chapter 149 Life-Death Contract. How about we sign a life-death contract? This way, if one of us is wounded or crippled, we cannot be held responsible. How about it? Lin Ming's smile was very bright. The effect that the pulse-cutting palm created was a little too excessive, so it was a good idea to establish a life-death contract in advance. When Zhong Guanyu heard Lin Ming say such a thing, he was over the moon. This Lin Ming was simply stretching out his neck waiting for him to chip it off. He was so stupid, he had never seen someone do anything so stupid. Lin Ming, what are you doing? Wang Yuhan anxiously said. She did not use a true essence sound transmission, but had run over instead. To sign a life-death contract? That was simply digging his own grave. Lin Ming, you cannot sign this. Zhong Guanyu laughed, and said with a smile, Miss Wang, may I ask who you are to Lin Ming? Wang Yuhan's words caught in her throat. There was nothing she could directly say. Her relationship with Lin Ming was only as an inscription master and assistant. Besides that, there wasn't anything else. What qualifications did she have to interfere in Lin Ming's decision? Lin Ming said, Miss Wang is a friend of mine. Zhong Guanyu, since I said that I will sign the life-death contract, I will not renege on a promise I made. Bring me a pen. Good. Wonderful. Servants, bring the writing set. Zhong Guanyu chuckled. A servant quickly brought over a set of writing utensils. A clerk came over and quickly wrote down line after line on the paper in small print. These were the words of the life-death contract between Lin Ming and Zhong Guanyu. Zhong Guanyu pressed down a fingerprint, and then taking up a red pen, made a big waving motion as if he were clawing, and the words Zhong Guanyu appeared on the life-death contract. The ink was bright red like blood, and looked incomparably fierce. Lin Ming received the ink and red pen, and quietly signed his name. His strokes were not obvious, but it was similar to a long spear and faintly exuded a sharp imposing momentum. Standing on the side, Wang Yuhan could clearly see that the intersecting strokes of Lin Ming had already penetrated the back of the paper and were flowing outwards. As the life-death contract was signed, Zhong Guanyu chortled, and sent Ouyang Dehua a true essence sound transmission. Mr. Ouyang, before we had agreed that you would give me the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead. Ouyang Dehua smiled and replied with a true essence sound transmission. Why, Lin Ming has challenged you so early, and you still want to use the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead? Aren't you overestimating him? Zhong Guanyu quietly replied, caution is best. I must ruin Lin Ming to the point that he cannot recover from the failure. I do not want to allow even a little mistake to occur. Haha, this Lin Ming has offended you, he truly does have bad luck. Ouyang Dehua flicked his finger, and a grey spatial ring suddenly flew into Zhong Guanyu's waiting hand. At this time, it was getting late, and Ouyang Dehua's action was very subtle. This scene was so minor that almost nobody noticed. But after Lin Ming had cultivated the true primal chaos formula, his senses were much keener, and he had actually noticed that small movement near Zhong Guanyu. What is in that ring? Lin Ming's mind went cold, suddenly and secretly on alert. The ring that Ouyang Dehua had thrown was certainly not something minor. I don't know what card this Zhong Guanyu has in his hand. I must be careful this fight. The Imperial Palace's military field was just outside the gates. It was large, had a paved floor of blue stone, and it had several dozen acres of space. It was even larger than a horse field. Because of this duel, all the participants at the grand banquet had come out to watch. Even Murongzi, who had been hiding, had found an obscure corner to watch together with Bai Jingyun. Zhong Guanyu had replaced the long silk gown that he had been wearing with simpler clothing and ran onto the military field. In his hand he held an impressive high-grade human-step treasure sword that shined with a dense coldness. This sword was the one that Lin Ming had helped Zhong Guanyu engrave just a month ago. Seeing this sword, Wang Yuhan sighed. This day, Lin Ming would face the top-quality treasure sword that he had personally helped make. Zhong Guanyu casually flourished the sword in his hand. He smiled, and with a happy expression said, Mr. Lin, do you remember this sword? I must thank you. I did not imagine that this sword would be so perfect. I wonder what it's like to lose under a sword that you helped to create. How would you feel? The feeling should be the same as yours. Lin Ming pulled out the heavy, profound, soft spear. Above his right hand, the symbol began to glow with a hint of dark red light, as if the blood vessels underneath were congealing. Zhong Guanyu naturally did not understand Lin Ming's words. He did not know that the 5th-level vicious beast blood that he had personally handed over was one of the primary materials for the inscription symbol on Lin Ming's right hand. Otherwise, his feelings would be much more intense than Lin Ming's. Lin Ming's spear. It doesn't have an inscription symbol. Wang Yuhan could not believe this as she looked at Lin Ming's heavy, profound, soft spear. She had never thought that Lin Ming, an inscription grandmaster, would not have given his own spear an inscription symbol. Just what exactly was his mind thinking? As Wang Yuhan said this, everyone turned to look at Lin Ming's heavy, profound, soft spear. This spear did not have an inscription. Usually, a normal martial artist would have no way to judge from a distance whether a weapon had an inscription symbol or not. But Wang Yuhan was an inscription master, so what she said shouldn't be wrong. Lin Ming obtained the weapon, and hadn't placed an inscription symbol on it as soon as possible. And now he was planning on using an inscriptionless weapon against Zhong Guanyu? Why would he do such a foolish thing? They were not optimistic about Lin Ming's strength to begin with, but now even his weapon was an order lower than Zhong Guanyu's, and it also lacked an inscription symbol. How could he still fight this battle? Far away, Qin Xingxuan also watched this, and her delicate eyebrows pressed together. She was clear, Lin Ming was young, but by no means an immature child. Since he dared to challenge Zhong Guanyu at this time, what sort of cards did he have up his sleeve? Hehe, I didn't think that you would be stupid to this degree. You obtained such a fine weapon and hadn't placed an inscription symbol upon it as soon as you could, yet you still want to cope with me today with it. Zhong Guanyu greedily licked his lips and smiled. Lin Ming looked at the heavy, profound, soft spear. These days he had been occupied with cultivating the heretical god force and drawing up the strife seal. He hadn't been able to set aside any time to give the heavy, profound, soft spear the inscription symbol that it deserved. The main reason was that Lin Ming wanted to collect some top-quality materials to make the most formidable inscription symbol that he could with his current technique and cultivation. To find the materials that were worthy of this heavy, profound, soft spear would take some time. After all, he planned to use this spear for a long time. However, missing an inscription symbol didn't affect him too much. Lin Ming's dark purple elastic iron penetrating rainbow spear didn't have an inscription symbol either. Lin Ming stepped forward, his right hand holding the end of the heavy, profound, soft spear as he stretched it out. He could feel that his right hand was full of an explosive force. This was power that the strife seal had given him. After he had successfully drawn up the strife seal, Lin Ming's strength had already reached 7,200 jins. This strength was even stronger than early pulse condensation period martial artist. Motionless like a mountain, with the flare of Lin Ming's imposing aura, his body began to release a formidable pressure. Some of the young elites of Sky Fortune City with weaker cultivations could not bear it, and backed away. This was just like what an average person would feel when they confronted a wild and ferocious tiger. Even if they knew this tiger would not injure them, they could not help but back away. Good. What a commanding aura. Lin Ming's strong point is his strength and towering manner, and his speed is not so good. But Zhong Guanyu's strong point lies in his speed and his strength is slightly lower. This could be said to be a duel between a peak strength powerhouse and a peak speed powerhouse. It really makes one look forward to it. A distinguished disciple of the 7 profound marital house said. A duel of peak powerhouses? He, the strongest disciple within the 7 profound martial house is Ta Ku. Not only is his cultivation at the early bone forging stage, but he also has inborn divine strength. Zhong Guanyu is the fastest, Ta Ku is the strongest. When these two fight, that will truly be the match of peak powerhouses. As for Lin Ming, although he is a heaven-warping genius, he is still tender and inexperienced. Motionless like a mountain how? I bet that the agile Zhong Guanyu will lead Lin Ming to dance around in circles. With Lin Ming's speed, I'm afraid that he might not even be able to touch the hem of Zhong Guanyu's cloth. And since Zhong Guanyu also cultivates the divine acacia power, his true essence and strength might not be lower than Lin Ming's. The result of this duel is already undeniable. A young aristocratic junior in silk robes sneered as he said this. In the Sky Fortune Kingdom, there were enough young people that idolized Lin Ming that they were like an endless river of carp. But correspondingly, there were no small number of those young martial artists that were jealous of Lin Ming and hoped that he would suffer a loss, and henceforth never be able to recover. This young man in a silk gown was also one of them. He believed that Lin Ming would one day be able to surpass Zhong Guanyu. But that was not today. Since Lin Ming had challenged Zhong Guanyu now, he would truly die miserably. Zhong Guanyu sneered, and mockingly said, "Your imposing aura is good, but what a pity that it is useless against me. I am not Xu Yang, and I have already seen through your body-tearing bone-shattering fists." As he said this, the entire audience was startled, particularly Wang Yuhan. Her heart suddenly felt as if it was hanging by strings. The body-tearing bone-shattering fist was Lin Ming's strongest ability. If Zhong Guanyu had already seen through Lin Ming's body-tearing bone-shattering fist, then how could Lin Ming possibly win? However, Lin Ming completely did not care for Zhong Guanyu's words and disregarded them. He brightly smiled and said, "You're just playing mind games. With your garbage perception, you had cultivated the divine acacia power for more than half a year and harmed so many women, and yet you still haven't reached the second layer? You think that you could see through my body-tearing bone-shattering fist with your garbage perception? Too laughable." As Lin Ming said this, Zhong Guanyu felt deeply aggrieved, and he was very angry. It was true that he had continually cultivated the divine acacia power and still hadn't reached the second layer, therefore he had worried that he would never reach large success of the divine acacia power's seventh layer in his entire life, and attain the realm where he would have inexhaustible yang essence. Lin Ming's words had stamped on his sore spot. A person shouldn't be so unrestrained, now go die. As soon as Zhong Guanyu yelled out, his figure flashed, and even his shadow was lost. Those present could only hear a series of ta-ta-ta footsteps and a sharp piercing sound coming out from nowhere. This was the sound of a high-speed sword cutting through the wind, so fast. Heavens! Even my eyes cannot catch up to his speed. Is this really a speed that a human can hope to achieve? The young heroes and outstanding talents present all had a good ability to judge others' power. Although they knew that there would be a disparity between Lin Ming and Zhong Guanyu, they hadn't thought that this difference would be like an endless gulf between them. This speed was so fast that not even the eye could follow. How would Lin Ming deal with this? One simply did not know where his sword would come from. Zhong Guanyu's speed was just like a rushing wind. Lin Ming gripped the heavy profound soft spear, and stood motionless in the same place. One was an indistinct figure with rapid movements, and the other was standing completely still. Just looking at this momentum, Lin Ming was weaker. Zhong Guanyu flashed around to arrive at Lin Ming's back. He grinned fiendishly, and aimed his sword to lop off Lin Ming's head. His sword reached an extreme of speed, even sound was swallowed within it. Chapter 150 Pinnacle Movement Ability. Chapter 150 Pinnacle Movement Ability. Chapter 150 Pinnacle Movement Ability. Those present couldn't even clearly see the sword light. If this sword struck, then Lin Ming's head would be split in half. It was too late to even cry out in alarm, but Zhong Guanyu's sword actually hit nothing. It was as if Lin Ming had eyes on the back of his head. In that brief flash as the sword fell, he took a strange half-step forwards, and it was as if he were a wisp of flame that had been blown away by a breeze, and he evaded Zhong Guanyu's sword by a hair's width. Millimeter? Zhong Guanyu was frustrated that his sword strike had failed. He did not believe that there was some evil force at hand, and he raised his sword to strike again. Kai 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 kai. In that moment, not even Zhong Guanyu knew how many sword stabs he had made. His sword had completely integrated into the wind, there was only a blurry mirage of sword light, the sword blade had already completed vanished from sight. Seeing only sword light and not the sword blade was already a very high boundary of swordsmanship. But one could actually not clearly see the sword light from Zhong Guanyu's sword. Such a terrifyingly quick sword light enveloped Lin Ming from all sides. But in this moment, Lin Ming's figure also blurred, and a thick stack of afterimages appeared around his body. In the midst of these afterimages, Lin Ming looked like he moved, but also like he didn't move. But what was without a doubt was that Zhong Guanyu's sword stabs had all miss. This is, what's going on? Murongzi had turned silly as she hid in that corner watching this decisive battle. Lin Ming had obviously been shrouded in so many sword lights, and yet not even a single hair of his had been touched. He was completely unscathed. What's going on? He's dodged everything. Bai Jingyun deeply inhaled, trying to keep her trembling voice as calm as possible. Lin Ming's movements were just too terrifying. Those martial artists familiar with movement abilities knew that this sword light was impossible to dodge with speed when it showered down like sword rain. The faster one's sword drew to the limit of speed, the less time there would be to dodge and the shorter gap between each sheen of sword light. Not only that, but the sword light was chaotic, without almost any dead angle. To escape such sword light, one had to be at least as fast as that sword light. To accomplish this task of dodging the sword light, one also had to have extremely accurate eyesight, near instantaneous keen judgment, and the ability to control one's movement at the microscopic level, where one had exquisite control over every part of the body. They would have to make numerous short and quick movements in a split second in order to dodge that sword light. Lin Ming's thick stack of fuzzy afterimages were because he had made so many brief and rapid movements that it left behind a visual afterimage in that 1/10 of a second in a person's iris. This was simply the pinnacle of movement. But Lin Ming, why would he have such ghostly movement speed? Those young elites present were knowledgeable. If Bai Jingyun could think of this, then so could they. They knew how difficult a task this would be to dodge such a crowded sea of sword light. Who? Just who said that Lin Ming is weak? He needs to open his damn eyes to see. Could this really be called a weak point? The one speaking was the heavenly abode disciple ranked 4th on the ranking stone. He knew that Lin Ming's previous assessment on the ranking stone had been 6th place. He didn't think that after several days, Lin Ming's strength would overtake his own. But now, looking at the present, his idea was simply a joke. How can this be? I remember that in the past Lin Ming rarely moved on the battlefield. His basic fighting method was to meet an opponent's toughness head-on. Moreover, what he cultivations is the foundation movement technique. How can it possibly be that quick? An aristocratic junior said. He was the one that had spoken out loud that Lin Ming's weakness was his low speed. You're too stupid. Would you dare to say that Lin Ming's foundation spear technique is also weak? As for him not moving on the battlefield, that is obviously because of how weak his previous opponents were. There was no need for Lin Ming to display his terrifying movement skills. A prominent Lin maniac plausibly responded. He had an ominous aura that was motionless like a mountain, amazing strength, incomparably thick true essence, and simultaneously a peerless speed. He simply did not have a single weakness. Facing such an abnormal beast, how could one fight him? The fight on the military field was becoming increasingly intense. It was top movements against top movements. Zhong Guanyu's sword speed was accelerating, becoming more and more swift and violent, and the sword lights interweaved to a point where not even raindrops could enter. The countless sword lights had already split the military field into broken pieces. The stones under Lin Ming's feet were already broken to the point they could not be broken anymore. The largest fragment was the size of a fingernail. However, even under the aggression of such a violent blade storm, Lin Ming was casually strolling like he was taking a walk through a park. His steps had completely integrated into the concept of wind, and it was impossible to catch his exact location. Zhong Guanyu's sword light seemed to create a dense crisscrossed net, but there was always a first and a last sword stroke. Lin Ming was able to exploit this small difference in time, and his movements were like passing clouds and flowing water, acutely smooth and incomparably gentle. It was as if he wasn't even dodging the sword, but instead the approaching sword wind would blow him away. Murongzi stared with a vacant expression, eyes growing wide. She murmured, "It's impossible, no matter how fierce that farm animal is, the movement ability he chose is only the foundation movement technique. How can the foundation movement technique possibly have such speed?" Murongzi's question was also Bai Jingyun's question. She also thought it was strange. Since when had Lin Ming learnt such an extremely formidable movement ability? But at this moment, a fresh and pleasant voice said, "Lin Ming is using the foundation movement technique." Murongzi turned her head to see that the one speaking was Qin Xingxuan. At this time, Qin Xingxuan was looking towards the center of the field, and her eyes were filled with admiration and praise. The foundation movement technique? No way. Murongzi would rather be beaten to death than believe such propaganda. She also had some understanding of the foundation movement technique. Lin Ming's movements were completely different from the foundation movement technique, and moreover, would the foundation movement technique have such strangely abnormal speed? But as Bai Jingyun followed this point mentioned by Qin Xingxuan, she felt a faint hint of discovery. She looked again at Lin Ming's movements, and her complexion rapidly began to devolve into inexplicable horror. It really is the foundation movement technique. Lin Ming's movements are all steps from the foundation movement technique. But, each step has been reduced to the lowest possible limit, and the speed of each step approaches the ultimate boundary. Yes, that's it. Qin Xingxuan nodded. What Lin Ming was displaying really was the foundation movement technique. What Golden Rock Shattering the Void stressed was comprehension of the concept and revolution of true essence. There were no requirements as to the required movements. To put it plainly, movement abilities that required certain steps were all mediocre garbage that belonged to offshoot branches. The truly formidable movement abilities all relied on comprehending the concept. As for the order of steps, it was arbitrary, and one could move as they pleased. If a movement ability was defined by how a martial artist's steps were, then it would inevitably become a shackle to that martial artist. How could it possibly display movement like passing clouds and flowing waters, where one's movement was like leisurely strolling through the yard? Lin Ming had already comprehended the concept of wind, thus every step he took was filled the same lofty grace. He had chosen the foundation movement technique only to conceal the golden rock shattering the void. Under such an intense battle of speed, both persons consumed a large amount of energy, especially Zhong Guanyu. His movements were larger and flashier than Lin Ming's, and he was also the one attacking. His consumption of true essence and physical strength was higher. After several dozen breaths, Zhong Guanyu's true essence began to show signs of exhaustion. At that moment, Lin Ming took one step forward and thrust out his spear. Clang! There was a harsh grating sound of metal colliding with metal, and Zhong Guanyu suddenly froze. His sword was set in front of his body, blocking Lin Ming's spear. Zhong Guanyu was startled and uncertain as he looked at Lin Ming. He had just been about to revolve more true essence and release a new round of offensive attacks, but Lin Ming had suddenly struck out at his heart with his spear. In the throes of such fast movements, Zhong Guanyu's ability to dodge should have been very strong. He should have been able to easily avoid the spear like Lin Ming had avoided his sword. He did not know why, but Lin Ming's spear seemed to follow his movements and rush toward his heart, so Zhong Guanyu had no choice but to lift his sword to fend it. But how could a soft sword block a heavy spear? Zhong Guanyu could only pour a vast amount of true essence into the sword blade, and the result was that his blood was sent tumbling in his effort to block the spear, and his bodily flow was sent into a maddening disorder. He saw through my movements. Impossible. The movement ability I study comes from the 7 Profound Valleys top-tier movement technique Shadowless Acacia. Not only that, but my movements were all erratic, and yet his spear that he sent found me. How could a thrust be so accurate? Zhong Guanyu had a great sense of humiliating frustration in his heart. His strongest point was his speed, but in terms of speed, he had been completely suppressed by Lin Ming. He only felt that the dazzling movement abilities he displayed were like a clown in a play. It was all useless work that had been ruined by a single thrust from Lin Ming. How did you do this? Your sword cut open the wind, so the wind simply betrayed you. Lin Ming said with a slight smile. After having comprehended the concept of wind, Lin Ming did not even need to use his eyes to look at Zhong Guanyu's movements. As long as he perceived the sensations of the wind, he was able to instantly judge Zhong Guanyu's position and path of movement. Zhong Guanyu certainly could not understand the meaning behind Lin Ming's words. His cheeks twitched and he coldly said, "Just some misleading tricks. You truly let me be startled very much. Good, very good. I will put forth my complete strength to kill you." Zhong Guanyu extended his left hand's index and middle finger. He cut it with his long sword, and a wisp of fresh blood left his body and entered into the blade. At the same time, Zhong Guanyu's face began to turn a rosy red. And from that rosy red he turned to the color of jade. His arms began to turn translucent, as if there were lights in body. Divine Acacia Power. This is the Divine Acacia Power. Those present that had a wide range of knowledge immediately recognized what cultivation method it was that Zhong Guanyu had displayed at this time. The 7 Profound Valleys Divine Acacia Power. This is a cultivation method that is only passed down to core disciples. Not even the heavenly abode disciples of the 7 Profound Martial House may learn it. Lin Ming is in danger. The Divine Acacia Power had deep true essence, and its moves were all sinister and ruthless. After Zhong Guanyu displayed the Divine Acacia Power, it immediately brought a strange aura. This aura was not formidable, yet there was an alternating bizarre coldness of the loins and burning of the breath. It made one experience countless illusions, almost causing the mind to fall. So formidable. The young elites present were not some average people of low ability, but still, facing this kind of weird imposing aura from Zhong Guanyu, they were actually forced to stimulate true essence within their entire bodies to barely resist the attack of this aura. Just seeing this aura caused them to revolve true essence throughout their entire bodies to just barely resist. If one were to face Zhong Guanyu's attack head-on, how would they be able to fight back? This is the Divine Acacia Power. Facing Zhong Guanyu's bizarre aura, Lin Ming began to revolve the true essence within the tiny units in his body. True essence filaments emerged from his body and easily tore apart this strange aura, shattering it into nihility. Chapter 151 Measure for Measure. Chapter 151 Measure for Measure. Chapter 151 Measure for Measure. Divine Acacia Power? Is this it? How mediocre. Lin Ming slightly shook his head. To think that this cultivation method would actually dare to call itself divine. This mystic power was truly worthless. Zhong Guanyu was formidable, this was not wrong. But all of his suppressing strength originated from his bone-forging stage cultivation. As for this divine acacia power, this cultivation brought forth a thick true essence, but it was impure. Perhaps it was because he had cultivated his carnal power with so many others, but whatever it was had caused impure true essence to mix into his body that hadn't yet been fully refined, so it had become like this. Big but not firm, flashy but lacking all substance. Lin Ming quickly made a judgment. He could break through all of this with his flow-like silk technique. Lin Ming, you ridiculed me that I could not break through to the second layer of the divine acacia power, and you're not wrong. Right now I am only at the large success stage of the divine acacia power's first layer. For now, let's see just how long you can even deal with the divine acacia power's large success of the first layer. More useless words. Make your move. Lin Ming held his spear in one hand and pointed it straight at Zhong Guanyu. The silvery white 1200 Jin heavy profound soft spear began to tremble from Lin Ming's striking aura. The air around them began to shudder as ripples appeared that were visible to the naked eye, seeming as if they could tear anything they touched to shreds. This effect was caused by the advancement of flow like silk, when that terrifying vibrating true essence was poured into the heavy profound soft spear. This power clashed against Zhong Guanyu's aura, and the imaginary sounds of weapons striking each other reverberated in the air. In this moment, as Lin Ming stood up tall and commanding, the grandiose aura that he emitted caused the hearts of the young noble girls to madly jump. Receive my sword, ecstasy cut. As Zhong Guanyu cried out, an illusionary sword appeared in the air, shrouded with a jade light, as if it was being bathed in red-hot flames. It turned into a series of phantasmal images that pierced towards Lin Ming. This sword move was not too fast, but that move emitted an aura that caused one to feel as if there was a disorder in space. The sword light was incomparably sharp, and it had simultaneously fused the strange aura of the divine acacia power with Zhong Guanyu's proud speed. Poff! Zhong Guanyu pierced through Lin Ming's chest. Before the audience even had time to cry out in alarm, Lin Ming, who had been stabbed, began to slowly vanish. After image. Lin Ming's body had already unified with the wind, and his movements were erratic, drifting from place to place. This time, he did not use that nuanced microscopic level of movement, but instead he had opened distance between them and increased the sphere of his range. After Zhong Guanyu had used the divine acacia power, every move of his began to contain powerful true essence fluctuations. It would be easy to be injured if he tried to fend off that power in such a small area. Let's see just who is faster. Zhong Guanyu coldly snorted. His form rushed forward like a blinding tornado. Because he had already revolved the divine acacia power, his speed had accelerated, and his shadow seemed to have integrated into nothingness. Every sword move he made was swifter and fiercer, like bolts of lightning during a thunderstorm. Even his sword light was difficult to see. Peng 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 peng. The sound of metal and true essence colliding in the air continuously sounded. Sword light and spear light glittered in the night sky. The formidable auras and shockwaves were as if a tremendous wind had swept up the entire audience. The stone ground of the military field was broken apart like tofu, and a hail of stone chips flew into the air, scattering in all directions like a rain of arrows. Watch out! Although the military field was wide, the battle between these two young men was too crazily fierce in intensity. Raging true essence had been fired into the ground. Retreat! Step back! The young elites present frantically revolved their true essence to protect their bodies. Some young aristocrats who had low cultivations were protected by their bodyguards. Under their protection, they immediately retreated to a safe distance. This is simply too fearful. These flying rocks can put holes in the body. An aristocratic junior watched with his own wide eyes as a crushed stone was sent shooting out by the collision of true essence. It struck a stone column near the military field, and the result was that it had created an inch-deep hole before crumbling inside. This is only the aftermath of their true essence colliding. If I were to face these two, even if I were protecting myself with true essence, I fear I would already be turned into a hornet's nest. The one speaking was a martial artist at the early altering muscle stage. He was only an ordinary altering muscle martial artist, equivalent to a peak viscera training stage martial artist of the Seven Profound Martial House. He had heard the rumors about Lin Ming, but couldn't imagine that he could be as powerful as they said. Now he had finally witnessed the power of Lin Ming, who was also only at the altering muscle stage. Why is Lin Ming's speed so high? Isn't the movement skill he chose the foundation movement technique? Was he taught some top-tier movement technique after he began his Seven Profound Valleys core disciple test? The person speaking thought that only a top-tier movement technique of the Seven Profound Valleys could have such terrifying velocity. By now, an aristocratic junior more familiar with movement techniques spoke. She hesitated as she said, I think that what Lin Ming is using is the foundation movement technique. What kind of joke are you playing? I'm not lying. Look at Lin Ming's steps. Those are the slide step, fly on grass, mouse crossing street, carp diving through Dragon Gate. These are all the basic steps of the foundation movement technique. Because Lin Ming had opened the distance between himself and Zhong Guanyu, there were some aristocratic juniors with high enough cultivations that they could just barely keep up with his movements. But they had never thought that these ghostly movements were from the foundation movement technique. As soon as this point was raised, everyone began looking at Lin Ming's footsteps. The foundation movement technique was one of the common and looked down upon movement skills. Those present had some insight to this. As they looked, they were all completely startled into mindless shock. This truly was the foundation movement technique. How was this possible? Maybe this Lin Ming relied upon his monstrous perception, and rewrote the foundation movement technique to improve it, and that's why he has this present speed. You say that's just going too far. Boom boom boom. Spear light surged, sword light chaotically danced, rocks broke, and endless true essence fluttered in the wind. Although Lin Ming was a full stage below Zhong Guanyu, he did not seem to be suppressed by him at all. Cool breeze cut. Bright moonlight soared. In this protracted battle, Zhong Guanyu's offense became even more savage. In every few moves he would swipe out with a martial skill. Because Zhong Guanyu's attack speed was so fast, in just one breath of time, he was able to release two martial skills at once. Damn, this is just too abnormal. He can also use martial skills like this. And with such thick true essence. If it were me, I would have already overdrawn my true essence after a few martial skills. No, what's more amazing is Lin Ming. Under the attacks of so many intense martial skills, can he still block them all? How is this possible? I heard that the manuals he chose were the foundation spear technique and the body-tearing bone-shattering fist. Not only that, but his cultivation is also inferior to Zhong Guanyu's, so how is he managing to stop all these martial skills? Some aristocratic juniors thought that was completely inconceivable. In their view, how could normal moves stop a martial skill, especially so many of them? True essence manifestation. A slightly cold voice suddenly sounded out. As soon as everyone turned to look, they were immediately surprised. The one speaking was Ling Sen. Since the young elites of Sky Fortune City were invited to this grand banquet, of course Ling Sen, who was the elder senior apprentice brother of the 7 profound martial houses' heavenly abode, had also been invited. It was only that he had arrived very late. True essence manifestation could be used during any normal attack. The released true essence was able to condense and substantialize into a true form, so that every normal strike one made would be comparable to an ordinary martial artist's martial skill. Ling Sen knew as soon as Lin Ming had attained the 6th rank on the ranking stone, that he had been able to manifest his true essence. Lin Ming was only at the early altering muscle stage, while Ling Sen himself had just reached a half step into the bone forging stage several months ago. Even now, he was only barely able to touch the threshold of true essence manifestation. Moreover, what Ling Sen was most spooked by was not this true essence manifestation, but Lin Ming's movement. Ling Sen's appearance had caught the attention of many people. After all, Ling Sen's eyesight was far beyond all of them. Senior apprentice brother Ling, isn't true essence manifestation a level that only a pulse condensation martial artist can achieve? Isn't Lin Ming only at the altering muscle stage? Isn't this just too abnormal? Senior apprentice brother Ling, is Lin Ming displaying the foundation movement technique? How come his speed is so quick? Ling Sen took a deep breath and slowly said, what Lin Ming is displaying is truly the foundation movement technique. After Ling Sen confirmed their suspicious, everyone gasped as if the air had been sucked out of them. Naturally, none of them doubted Ling Sen's words. Senior apprentice brother Ling, how can the foundation movement technique be so fast? Ling Sen stayed silent. Even though Lin Ming was using the foundation movement technique, it seemed as if there was some profound mystery contained within his steps, something that he couldn't grasp. If there was anything different about the foundation movement technique that he knew about, then it would seem as if this version of the foundation movement technique contained some kind of soul and charm. This set of movements was alive. Zhong Guanyu's martial skills that he used began to grow swifter and more violent. Because martial skills required some time to activate, Zhong Guanyu had also mixed in the skill of inscription from the inscription symbol that Lin Ming had drawn. With Zhong Guanyu's status, he did not lack any high-level martial skills. The power of this skill of inscription was not too great, but the speed with which he could use it was quicker, thus Zhong Guanyu repeatedly used it. Haha, how does it feel being struck by the very skill of inscription that you created? Isn't it a wonderful feeling? You are just a person who digs his own grave. Zhong Guanyu insolently laughed. You really do speak so much nonsense. Your movements are so fast and the wind coming from you is so fierce, you should be afraid of that wind cutting your blithe tongue. Humph, you caught death. These two people began increase their fighting tempo, and each strike was more brutal than the last. This level of battle, even a pulse condensation period martial artist would have their heart tremble if they saw this. Ecstasy cut. Zhong Guanyu's sword filled with true essence, and he took a forceful step forwards. The sword began to emit a keen wail, and the sword thrust out like a bolt of lightning. This was a martial skill that had been enhanced by the divine acacia power, even sound seemed to be swallowed by it. Flow like silk. Lin Ming turned and thrust his spear out. Vibrating true essence scattered from him in all directions, and surged towards Zhong Guanyu like a raging tide. With the medium-grade human step treasure, the heavy profound soft spear, Lin Ming's flow like silk had become even more powerful. However, as Zhong Guanyu faced this vibrating true essence, he only grinned like a madman. The true essence in his sword suddenly contracted, and congealed into a sharp shape just like needle, stabbed out at Lin Ming. Po 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 po. The layer upon layer of wave-like vibrating true essence was punctured by Zhong Guanyu's sword as if it were strip of cloth, and he instantly arrived in front of Lin Ming. Clang! Zhong Guanyu's sword stabbed at Lin Ming's spear shaft. The straight, heavy, profound, soft spear was immediately impacted by a formidable strength and turned into a silver crescent. Chapter 152 Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead. Chapter 152 Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead. Chapter 152 Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead. That sword in Zhong Guanyu's hands was a high-grade human step treasure. If Lin Ming had been holding the dark purple elastic iron spear, then this sword would have already pierced straight through the spear shaft. Lin Ming only felt an unrivaled sharp strength vigorously transmit through him, and his body flew back in the air. He tumbled backwards for several dozens of feet before using his own strength to hold himself down, but the blood in his chest was still roiling from the impact. So strong. Lin Ming could not help but acknowledge that even though Zhong Guanyu's true essence was impure, his strength was utterly dreadful. That slender sword bent a heavy spear. His sword was flooded with true essence, and with that irresistible strength, that sword forced me back so much. Zhong Guanyu is truly fierce. Zhong Guanyu was grinning like demon. He said, Lin Ming, I told you that I already saw through you body-tearing, bone-shattering fists. As long as I concentrate my true essence into a thin shape, I can use it to pierce through your vibrating true essence, and expose your weakness. Expose my weakness? Lin Ming smiled. This move might be somewhat useful to deal with the original body-tearing, bone-shattering fist, but against flow like silk, it was pointless. The total wisdom of the realm of the gods had accumulated for countless millennia and repeatedly tempered into the chaotic virtues combat meridians. How could it be something that someone as insignificant like Zhong Guanyu could break? Lin Ming, resign yourself to fate. Today, I will end the myth of your genius. Zhong Guanyu howled like a depraved beast. The sword in his hand began to emit a keening wail, as if there were countless ghosts circling around the blade. With a loud explosion, the stones under Zhong Guanyu's feet began to crack apart. Hihi, just die. Life-severing dead bone blade. Life-severing dead bone blade? Qin Xingxuan frowned. This was an incomparably vicious and evil move, and it was also the most powerful maneuver within the first layer of the Divine Acacia Power. The Divine Acacia Power was a unification of martial skills and heart mantras. It was a demonic art that belonged to the path of evil. This so-called demonic art was one that was filled with heretical and diabolical ways. For instance, using women, devouring, going berserk, these were all methods in order to increase one's strength and cultivation in a short time. It was easy for this cultivation method to cause one to be taken over by their darkest obsessions as if they were possessed by the devil. The sword would become slanted, and the style was insidious beyond measure. It could even cause damage to oneself. The life-severing dead bone blade was a sword move that released countless wronged spirits. Once this blade stabbed into its enemy, their true essence would be reversed, and it could absorb their flesh and blood life essence. If one's cultivation was poor, then with a stab of the sword, it could even turn an enemy into bleached bones. Even a martial artist at a high cultivation who had thick true essence would suffer a miserable fate if they were stabbed by this sword. Their body would lose much of their inner vitality, and it would cause the body to atrophy and wither away. The meridians, muscles, and tendons would all be wasted away, until they were finally turned into a disabled vegetable. This kind of disability could only be cured by the rare material human life-death bone flesh. Otherwise, it was simply impossible to cure. And this kind of rare material treasure was actually not something that a large sect like the Seven Profound Valleys could even make. If one were to be struck by this life-severing dead bone blade, then their entire life's martial arts cultivation would be half wiped out, or even completely ruined. However, although this life-severing dead bone blade was a perverse and malefic move, one could not freely use it. This sword move would cause whoever used it to have their mind and soul eroded by the unjust ghosts, and it would cause their personality to turn to chaos, until they finally became a mind-touched devil. This Zhong Guanyu is truly black-hearted. He would actually dare to use this move. He is determined to destroy Lin Ming. Qin Xingxuan was a core disciple of the Seven Profound Valleys, so she understood what effect the life-severing dead bone blade had. When she said this, Wang Yuhan's heart suddenly painfully clenched. Lin Ming's body-tearing, bone-shattering fist had already been suppressed. How would he confront this life-severing dead bone blade? Zhong Guanyu's sword had not even thrust out, yet Lin Ming could already feel a chilly wind blowing at him. This icy wind seemed to turn into a mass of aggrieved souls that wrapped around his hands and feet, suddenly slowing down Lin Ming's movements. Lin Ming frowned. Ah! This sword move can actually affect my movements. Haha. This is my strongest move, it is impossible for you to hide. Zhong Guanyu let loose a demented cackle. His handsome face had already been completely twisted from before, and now it was just a mockery of a human. Countless ghosts emerged from Zhong Guanyu's body. His hair was completely loose and blown up by the chilling breeze. Like this, he seemed to have wholly become a demon. Don't worry, I will let you keep your life. Zhong Guanyu cried out like an evil monster, and his sword thrust towards Lin Ming. Those myriad ghosts condensed onto Zhong Guanyu's sword, and the sword blade completely turned white like bleached bones. It was as if Zhong Guanyu was not holding a sword in his hand, but a white bone. Seeing this sword thrust reflected in his eyes, Lin Ming let loose a roar. True essence began to rapidly circulate throughout his body, and the heretical god seed in Lin Ming's heart began to issue forth a blazing light. The highly compressed true essence scattered outwards and rushed into Lin Ming's body and blood. Heretical God Force, open. The first layer of the heretical God Force could instantly increase one's strength and true essence by 50%. In addition to the increased power from the Strife Seal, Lin Ming only felt his entire body blazing with fighting spirit. Not only that, but all the accumulated momentum from his previous collisions with Zhong Guanyu instantly erupted at once. His spear thrust out and swept away the world. As his unstoppable momentum burst forth, all the haunting ghosts that had affected his speed were blown away without a trace. Lin Ming was instantly restored to his peak speed. However, he did not intend to hide. His body contained a raging warlike thirst. He was like a volcano that had reached the critical point. He must erupt. I'll let you see, the true flow like silk. Flood dragon goes to sea. Lin Ming's spear flew forwards. With a loud explosion, the ground underneath his feet completely ruptured. The cracks spread like an ever-widening spider web. For a time, it was as if a true flood dragon had rushed out from Lin Ming's silver spear. True essence rioted and space seemed to be compressed as a terrible strength formed visible ripples in the air. It swept through the broken tiles on the floor and scattered them like a hurricane. Bang! Lin Ming's spear, which contained the peak of his strength, struck Zhong Guanyu's life-severing dead bone blade. In that moment, all the tiny units within Lin Ming's body began to vibrate together, and instantly turned into 5,000 filaments of true essence. These 5,000 true essence filaments were just like 5,000 ominous, little, and ferocious flood dragons that rushed at Zhong Guanyu. Cha. The life-severing dead bone blade that held so many ghosts was similar to waste paper as the small flood dragons lunged in and bit through. This was a completely one-sided crushing. The 5,000 true essence filaments broke through the life-severing dead bone blade, and immediately rushed into Zhong Guanyu just like a rampaging pack of wild beasts. Zhong Guanyu had already reached the bone-forging stage, and true essence had sunk into his bones. His inner body's defensive capabilities were simply amazing. But how could this keep off 5,000 true essence threads of vibrating true essence enhanced by the heretical god force? Zhong Guanyu issued a piercing scream that turned into pitiful wails. Many of his organs had been torn, countless blood vessels had ruptured, and fresh blood spurted out from his body. Zhong Guanyu dropped his sword. It was as if his entire body had been turned inside out, and his body was like a broken bag of blood that crumpled to the ground. There was total silence among the audience. Zhong Guanyu's strongest move, the most brutal and savage finishing blow of the divine Acacia Power's first layer, life-severing dead bone blade, had actually been sent flying with one thrust of Lin Ming's spear. Looking at the arena under Lin Ming's feet, and the ring of cracks that were like a giant spiderweb that spread for dozens of feet, this was the utterly cataclysmic power which was created by the overwhelming true essence and strength of a monstrous genia. The 7 profound martial housemaster had given Lin Ming a test to defeat Zhong Guanyu in 4 months. Now, he had finished in only 2.5 months. And not only that, But he defeated Zhong Guanyu in his strongest state with the might of a single spear. Lin Ming's heavy profound soft spear did not even have an inscription symbol placed on it. This was just too terrifying. With Lin Ming, no matter how impossible things seemed, it would become a likely possibility. Zhong Guanyu's 5 organs had been broken, and he had lost a massive amount of blood. But still, his facial muscles contorted as if they were about to break, and his heart was filled to the brim with agonizing hatred. Lin Ming, I will kill you. Zhong Guanyu bit his tongue, and reached out a hand to the grey spatial ring he had. This scene immediately aroused Lin Ming's vigilance. He clearly remembered that before this fight began, Ouyang Dehua had quietly given Zhong Guanyu a spatial ring. That was the same one he was now reaching for. With Ouyang Dehua's background in the 7 profound valleys, anything he gave was certainly not some commonplace object. Lin Ming's heart was filled with a great sense of crisis. Without a word, he aimed his spear at Zhong Guanyu's hand, and shot out the heavy profound soft spear. Whoosh! The 1200 Jin heavy profound soft spear broke free with a shrill sound as it flew out. The inherent power within it was extremely horrifying. Zhong Guanyu had just taken out the Thunderbolt Devilfire bead, when that heavy profound soft spear pierced the palm of his hand. With mere flesh and blood that had already lost its true essence protection facing such a relentless strength, the results could be imagined. Po! Zhong Guanyu's pale and slender hand was like a block of tofu that was smashed apart by a heavy hammer. Ah. Zhong Guanyu held on to his broken wrist and screamed in pain. At this time, Lin Ming suddenly rushed forwards and aimed a palm at Zhong Guanyu's back. Pulse-cutting palm. Stop! Lin Ming's ears rang with the sound of Ouyang Dehua's shout. But Lin Ming did not listen to him, and still struck his palm towards Zhong Guanyu. Ouyang Dehua coldly coughed, and his body that had been relaxed and sitting suddenly and violent rushed out. The chair he was sitting in was broken apart by the explosive strength and scattered everywhere. Ouyang Dehua had wanted to wait for Zhong Guanyu to throw the Thunderbolt Devilfire bead and severely wound or even kill Lin Ming. The Thunderbolt Devilfire bead was made by an array master of the 7 profound valleys. It could kill even an early pulse condensation period martial artist. This sort of treasure could only be produced by a large sect, and it was an absolutely forbidden item within the mortal world. Ouyang Dehua believed that if Lin Ming were to be directly struck by the Thunderbolt Devilfire bead, then he would meet certain death. Even if it only partially touched him, he would still be seriously injured or disabled. But he had never expected that Lin Ming would be so decisive. Just at the moment when Zhong Guanyu had taken out the Thunderbolt Devilfire bead, Lin Ming had already thrown the heavy profound soft spear, and turned Zhong Guanyu's hand into ground meat. Now Zhong Guanyu had already lost all of his strength to resist, and yet Lin Ming still wanted to use a heavy hand to injure him. How could Ouyang Dehua idly sit by and do nothing? After all, Zhong Guanyu was intimately involved with the acquisition of the 12 pure yin girls. If Zhong Guanyu died, then the entire reason that he came to the Sky Fortune Kingdom would be for naught. Impudence! Seeing Lin Ming simply ignore his orders and still rush at Zhong Guanyu, Ouyang Dehua felt a rising rage in his heart. He raised his true essence and struck out a palm towards Lin Ming. In this palm strike, Ouyang Dehua had mercilessly used his full strength. It was meant to seriously injure or even kill Lin Ming. Just when he thought he had reached Lin Ming's path, and was prepared to kill Lin Ming's speed suddenly shot up. Golden rock shattering the void. Lin Ming used the powered state of the heretical god force to display the golden rock shattering the void. In that instant, his speed had reached an extreme velocity. Compared to when he had faced Zhong Guanyu a moment ago, he was over 50% faster. This phantom-like speed had already far exceeded Ouyang Dehua's maximum speed. Ouyang Dehua's palm hit nothing but air. Chapter 153 Oppressing Aura. Chapter 153 Oppressing Aura. Chapter 153 Oppressing Aura. Peng. Ouyang Dehua's palm wind struck a stone column that was at the edge of the military field and instantly split it apart. Meanwhile, Lin Ming had already flickered like a ray of light to Zhong Guanyu's side. His palm struck down, and a merciless handprint appeared on Zhong Guanyu's back. Pulse-cutting palm. Lin Ming's true essence infiltrated into Zhong Guanyu's body. At this time, Zhong Guanyu had already completely lost any means of resistance, so the true essence rapidly spread out, unobstructed, across all of Zhong Guanyu's meridians. His meridians were smashed apart by the rushing true essence, including many key points, pores, and all else. Everything was utterly ravaged. Zhong Guanyu stiffly groaned, and fainted. This sudden change in events caused everyone to gasp. Lin Ming had ignored Ouyang Dehua's command, and moreover he had abruptly broken through Ouyang Dehua's interference to strike a palm upon Zhong Guanyu. Did this not mean that Lin Ming's speed was quicker than Ouyang Dehua's? Ouyang Dehua actually could not stop Lin Ming. Lin Ming is too terrifying. Ouyang Dehua is the direct disciple of an elder. He's definitely not some ordinary pulse condensation period martial artist, and Lin Ming is only at the altering muscle stage. These people discussed in a low voice with each other through true essence sound transmission. The looks upon their faces as they gazed at Lin Ming were filled with reverence, and even fear. After he used a single palm to cut off the root of so many future troubles, Lin Ming deliberately picked up the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead that was by Zhong Guanyu. Although it was the first time that he had seen something like this, Lin Ming could approximately guess what it did. It must be some kind of destructive concealed weapon. As he examined the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead, Lin Ming could feel a tingling sensation akin to arrows piercing his back. He calmly turned around to see Ouyang Dehua balefully gazing at him. Ouyang had never been as angry as he was today. He was already mad enough that Lin Ming had ignored his order, but what he could not accept the most was that his attack, in which he had invested his full strength to stop Lin Ming, had actually been evaded by him, and thus failed. This caused him to lose a great amount of faith. He was a martial artist at the pulse condensation period. He was 24 years old, and was also a direct disciple of a 7 Profound Valleys elder. Lin Ming was only a quasi-core disciple, 15 years old, and his cultivation was at the early altering muscle stage. He had actually been beaten by Lin Ming, and his palm had struck nothing but empty air. He could only helplessly look on as this little brat struck Zhong Guanyu with a heavy hand. He was older than Lin Ming by 9 years. His life had just been all in vain. Now where had all his dignity gone? His martial talent was not anything too outstanding. The reason he was able to become a direct disciple of an elder was because his uncle was the 3rd elder of the Acacia faction. What he hated the most was those that spoke behind his back and said, "This Ouyang Dehua only relied on his relations to become a core disciple. He has no skill at all." Good. Very good. You did not listen to my orders and still maliciously attacked Zhong Guanyu when he had lost all ability to resist. Just by this alone, I can cripple you. Ouyang Dehua clenched his fists, his eyes glazed over with hate as he wished he could just eat Lin Ming alive. Lin Ming did not have a change of expression. He flashed the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead in his hand, and confidently said, "Sir 7 Profound Envoy, I think that you should recognize this. Zhong Guanyu wanted to use this against me. I don't believe this is allowed in the rules of this duel. This is probably something that can only be refined by a large sect. Its power can be imagined. How can you say he had lost the ability to resist? Is Sir 7 Profound Envoy's meaning that I should hold out my neck and let him cut off my head? Should I have waited until Zhong Guanyu severely injured me before I dealt with him? I'm sorry, I'm simply not someone so noble. Also, there are many important people present. Since this thing's power is so great, wouldn't it be horrible if he threw this out and injured everybody? It doesn't take much true essence to throw this. As long as Zhong Guanyu has even a breath of life left in himself, he can readily throw this out. That's why I had to stop him. I only put him to sleep. The palm I used was a bit heavy a moment ago, but I made sure not to remove Sir Zhong's hand. I'm sorry, I truly do feel regret, but I was helplessly forced to act. Taking 10,000 steps back, I say that even if I was to be cruel, Sir Zhong and I have already signed a life-death contract before this, and we have even pressed our thumbs as proof, so that any life-threatening wounds cannot be investigated. Mr. Ouyang, don't you remember? Lin Ming's reasoning caused Ouyang Dehua to tremble with rage. That palm was not too heavy. Although Ouyang Dehua did not understand what profound mysteries were contained within that palm strike, what he certainly knew was that with Lin Ming's decisive and vicious movement, that palm absolutely had done some great harm to Zhong Guanyu. coupled with the fact that before, he had already ruined Zhong Guanyu's right hand, and turned it into nothing more than ravaged meat and broken bones. Without rare and valuable medicine that could regrow limbs, it would simply not heal well. It seemed that from here on out, Zhong Guanyu's martial path had come to a full stop. This Zhong Guanyu was a person whose heart was simply too proud. He could not tolerate even a small failure, much less a failure of this level. Perhaps his heart of martial arts had been totally defeated, and he would never be able to recover. Zhong Guanyu's entire life could now be considered over. It just so happened that Lin Ming's vicious move was actually not wrong nor against the rules. Just before, Zhong Guanyu had wanted to kill Lin Ming, and this Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead was the evidence. According to the regulations of the Seven Profound Martial House, one could not kill an opponent in battle or deliberately disable them when they had lost the ability to resist counterattacks, or else they would be subject to certain punishments. But now Lin Ming hadn't actually killed his opponent, nor had he disabled his opponent once they had lost any means to resist. What he did was a legitimate defense, so there was simply no violation of any rules. This caused Ouyang Dihua to almost go crazy with vexation. Not only that, but they had also signed the life-death contract before the duel, so Ouyang Dihua could not find fault with Lin Ming. Therefore, he had no means to deal with Lin Ming. He was a 24-year-old man while Lin Ming was only a 15-year-old youth. If he relied on his cultivation to intimidate, it would be seen as an elder bullying the younger generation. If he had no appropriate reason to deal with Lin Ming, then any actions could not be justified. Moreover, Ouyang Dihua thought back to Lin Ming's elusive speed, and he began to lack self-confidence. If he was able to suppress Lin Ming with his absolute power, then that would be good. However, if he still could not defeat Lin Ming in several moves, then he would really want to hit his head on a wall and die. This 9-year gap would simply be too laughable a matter, but today, he could not forget this matter or let it go, or else his dignity would be gone. The atmosphere was very solemn and grim. Anybody could see that the sparks between Lin Ming and Ouyang Dihua were about to burst. These two were a future Seven Profound Envoy and a current Seven Profound Envoy that were in opposition to each other. Of course, no matter how one looked at it, Lin Ming was the weaker party. Lin Ming is in danger. Ouyang Dihua is not someone to be trifled with. Even the Seven Profound Martial Housemaster has to treat him with a bit of respect. The youth has courage. Now that Lin Ming has provoked Ouyang Dihua before he has grown, I'm afraid that Lin Ming will have dark days from here on out. Don't look down on Lin Ming. Just look at all the enemies Lin Ming has made. Zhong Kang, Zhu Yang, Zhong Guanyu, all have been defeated by Lin Ming. Zhong Kang and Zhu Yang are too weak, but leaving them aside, isn't Zhong Guanyu at the peak, whether it is cultivation or individual strength? The truth was that there was an enemy that no one dared to name out loud. This was the 10th prince, Yang Zhen. Yang Zhen had been tightly and significantly suppressed by Lin Ming. He could only smile at front of Lin Ming, not caring about keeping any face. He only needed to look at those who cared about face, such as Zhong Kang, Zhu Yang, and Zhong Guanyu, to see that they were all finished. The 10th prince Yang Zhen was wise. Every day he could play ball with Lin Ming was an extra day. Many of those present shared a different view. Some worried over Lin Ming, and some, who liked to gloat over others' misfortunes, looked forward to seeing Lin Ming be played to death by Ouyang Dihua. Lin Ming was powerful, but, behind Ouyang Dihua was an elder of the 7 Profound Valleys. Such a character could easily send down a 7 Profound decree that could even cause a nation to switch rulers, and change the name of the land. Even if Lin Ming reached the pulse condensation period, he would not dare to move against Ouyang Dihua, otherwise that would simply be courting death. In all the controversy, Bai Jingyun was silently biting her lips as she looked at Lin Ming with a very complex expression. She still had half a year. The day on which her filial obligations to mourn the death of her father for 3 years would end, was in half a year. After the mourning period had ended, that was the day Ouyang Dihua would propose marriage. Bai Jingyun did not expect that her grandfather, who had to worry about the family interests, would have the courage to refuse this marriage. She also didn't expect that Ouyang Dihua would simply forget about her. Although Ouyang Dihua hadn't even spoken a few words to her at the banquet today, that was only because the timing was not suitable. Bai Jingyun had clearly seen Ouyang Dehua's eyes when he looked at her, and those eyes were filled with greed and immorality. Bai Jingyun had already resigned herself to her fate, but now, she saw that Lin Ming and Ouyang Dehua were enemies. This caused her heart to clench. Maybe, just maybe, there was a 1% possibility that Lin Ming could rescue her from the fiery pit. On the military field, Ouyang Dehua took one step at a time towards Lin Ming. Every time he took one step, his horrible aura would become 1 point stronger. His footsteps caused the hearts of those who looked to beat as if they were resonating with them. This feeling was very uncomfortable. Since I cannot move against you, then I will force you to submit. As Ouyang Dehua fiercely though this, the aura of his body suddenly erupted. He wanted to rely on the virtue of his grand presence to oppress Lin Ming until he could not persist any longer and had to yield. Ouyang Dehua had already cultivated his divine acacia power to the peak of the 3rd layer. He was just missing one step before he could break through to the 4th layer. His imposing aura was much more perilous than Zhong Guanyu's. With every step, all sorts of chaotic illusions and demons seemed to rush upwards like a swelling tide that covered Lin Ming. Those standing around Ouyang Dehua were forced to retreat. This aura was extremely weird and ghastly. As soon as it spread to them, they immediately felt illusory nightmares appear before them, and their minds almost failed. My lord, be careful. A guard saw that his master already gone stupid, and saliva was dribbling from the corners of his mouth. He wanted to shake him up and wake him from this nightmare, but he knew it was useless. He could only throw him over his back and carry him beyond the range which Ouyang Dehua's terrifying aura covered. Many of the elite present had martial artist cultivation that was too low to resist the nature of Ouyang Dehua's perplexing aura. Even those martial artists at the flesh training and viscera training stages did not feel good, and were forced to revolve the true essence within their entire bodies to resist Ouyang Dehua's oppressive presence. There were those whose cultivations were simply too weak, and, not giving any thought to face, simply ran away. A pulse condensation period martial artist from the 7 profound valleys was truly formidable. These elite nobles in the audience had only been brushed by this aura, and yet they had suffered so miserably. Lin Ming was actually bearing the full brunt of the pressure on the field. How difficult it was could only be imagined. But when everyone finally, with a great deal of effort, stabilized their own minds and consciousnesses against the chaotic illusions, they were stunned as they looked towards Lin Ming. They also saw Lin Ming standing idly by, looking unconcerned. Both of his hands were held against his chest, and he was freely standing in the center of the military field. The heavy, profound, soft spear was hugged in his arms, up against his chest. And as they turned to his expression, they saw that Lin Ming was looking towards Ouyang Dehua as if he were just some playful monkey. Chapter 154 Qinzia. Chapter 154 Qinzia. Chapter 154 Qinzia. The divine acacia power was ultimately a deviant and perverse cultivation method. After one cultivated the divine acacia power, their aura would be filled with a twisted and immoral momentum. If a martial artist was enveloped in this, their minds would be unable to cope with the endlessly aberrant illusions, and they would expose the ugliness of their hearts. But Lin Ming's heart of martial arts was especially pure and true. Not only that, but Lin Ming cultivated the extreme yang chaotic virtues combat meridians, so his true essence was incomparably thick. His martial arts aura was like an unyielding bridge, motionless like a mountain. Because of this, these endless illusory phantoms were simply a joke to Lin Ming. Ouyang Dehua's cultivation was only at the pulse condensation period. Even if he was at the Hutian realm, Lin Ming would still be able to resist his aura. That's why the current scene was like such. Despite how Ouyang Dehua exerted his aura, Lin Ming remained unimpressed and unmoved. This caused Ouyang Dehua to look like nothing more than a stage clown. As everyone present saw this scene, they were shocked silly. While facing Ouyang Dehua's oppressive aura, Lin Ming did not appear to be the least bit affected by it. This was just too ridiculous. It was simply a slap to the face. Within the crowd, Bai Jingyun was blankly looking towards Lin Ming's figure. She hadn't thought that under such a terrible pressure, Lin Ming could remain calm and tranquil as if he possessed a worthy arrogance that looked down upon all others. To Lin Ming, Ouyang Dehua's oppressive aura was like a meager spiderweb that was easily shaken off. Regardless of whether it was a moment ago when he was facing Zhong Guanyu, or now, Lin Ming's aura was pitilessly sharp. It was able to destroy even unbreakable defenses. It was like a long spear that cut through all. At that moment, Bai Jingyun's heartbeat sped up with bewilderment. He was calm and restrained like an immutable mountain. But when combat broke out, he was like a limitless edge, stunning the world. Maybe, just maybe, he could win. Thinking this, Bai Jingyun grasped the collar of her dress, short of breath. In the tiny, desolate corner where she was standing, no one had noticed her expression. This included Murongzi, who was quietly standing with her head C***ked. On the military field, the longer Lin Ming remained calm, the more Ouyang Dehua was discredited and thoroughly embarrassed. Some people could not bear to continue watching. Just how would Ouyang Dehua end this play today? To those of a lofty status, what they regarded as the most important was face. And Lin Ming was simply not giving him any face. Lin Ming is just too abnormal. Still, I don't think it's wise for him to be so resistant to Ouyang Dehua's aura. He should yield a little bit, and give Ouyang Dehua an opportunity to step down. Some people murmured. Yield. Murongzi happened to hear. She sneered and coldly said, if Lin Ming really did yield even a little, then he would not be able to resist Ouyang Dehua's aura. Ouyang Dehua will not let Lin Ming go so easily. He will have Lin Ming be just like those idiots a moment ago, with their drooling mouths, dull eyes, and acting like some buffoons. That's simply no better than a pig. The atmosphere became increasingly intense. Since things had already come to this point, it had long passed any chance of peaceful resolution. But at this moment, a boisterous laughter suddenly sounded in the air. This laughter was particularly rich. When one first heard it, it was still very far away, and in the next second it rang in everyone's ears. Before anyone could react, a man in flowing white robes appeared in front of the crowd, holding a long zither in his arms. The man was tall and slender, with thick, bushy eyebrows. Standing there, he was cloaked in a timeless grace. Those who saw him could not help but feel a sense of palpable awe emerging from their hearts. As this person appeared, the suppressing pressure that Ouyang Dehua was emitting suddenly scattered into the wind. Without a doubt, this person's strength was far more formidable than Ouyang Dehua. Martial Housemaster? Qin Xingxuan was shocked. She rarely saw the mysterious Seven Profound Martial Housemaster. His movements were erratic and he drifted from place to place. His strength was incomparably deep. He had already stalled at the peak Hutian boundary for a very long time, and it was said that he had already taken a half step into the Xiantian realm. Ouyang Dehua's mouth twitched as soon as he saw this man, who was holding a long zither, appear, and he took advantage of this moment to withdraw his aura. This zither-holding man was the Seven Profound Martial Housemaster, Qin Zia. Before Qin Zia joined the Seven Profound Valleys, he was only a mere wandering musician. Afterwards, he had done his obeisance and entered into the Seven Profound Valleys zither faction. At that time, he was already 20 years old. Since Qin Zia had started cultivating martial arts at 20 years of age, he had already missed the golden period for a martial artist to cultivate. Still, as things were, he managed to unexpectedly enter into the pulse condensation period at 31 years, and then stepped into the Hutian realm at 36 years of age. When he was 45 years old, he had reached the peak Hutian realm. Such a talented genius of cultivation had shocked even the elders of the Seven Profound Valleys. However, it was a great loss that he had missed the golden age for a martial artist to cultivate. So even though Qin Zia was reborn, he had encountered an enormous bottleneck as he tried to enter the Xiantian realm. Now, he toured the world at his mercy of his own whim, and also held the post of Sky Fortune Kingdom's Seven Profound Martial Housemaster. This was because he wished to travel and find a breakthrough in his mind and also in his zither skill. Sir Ouyang, can you consider giving me face, and consider this matter ended today? How about it? Qin Zia said this, smiling. His voice had a very strange fondness, as though one were listening to a spring breeze. After a silence, Ouyang Dehua quietly said, since Martial House Master Qin says so, I naturally will not pursue this matter. Since Qin Zia had personally showed up, Ouyang de Hua would certainly take this opportunity and show him respect. Ouyang de Hua was also a bit in awe of Qin Zia. Once Qin Zia entered the Xiantian realm, he would also be an elder. With his talent in the zither arts, his status would not necessarily be lower than his uncle's. Little brother Lin, this is for you. Qin Zia flicked his wrist. It wasn't clear how he moved, but a crimson-colored lingji the size of a baby's palm appeared in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the blood lingji flew towards Lin Ming as if it had some sort of intelligence. 500-year-old blood lingji. After Lin Ming caught the blood lingji, he could feel the rich essence begin to flow into his hand. His heart couldn't help but rapidly beat with excitement. A 500-year-old blood lingji was extremely rare. Only a large sect would know the secret methods with which to cultivate it, and their survival rate were also very low. Most blood lingji reached the end of their lifespan at 300 years of age. If the plant was not picked, then it would simply be wasted. A 300-year-old blood lingji grew to the size of a washbowl, and was considered an incomparably wondrous miracle medicine in the world of mortal men. This sort of blood lingji was already very precious. A blood lingji that was older would be much harder to find in the mortal world. There were only some sacred mountains that were rich in spiritual essence that the largest sects could look through. When a blood lingji reached 300 years of age, its essence would begin to compress, and it would gradually decrease in size. A 400-year-old blood lingji was the size of a scoop, but a 500-year-old blood lingji was only the size of a baby's palm. Although the blood lingji was smaller, what was concentrated was actually its enriching essence. This blood lingji was able to supplement one's flesh and body, causing a martial artist's vitality to be especially buoyant, and also increase one's strength. A 500-year-old blood lingji was a wondrous medicine that martial artists who seeked strength yearned for in their every waking dream. As those present saw this faint aroma that was emitted by the crimson blood lingji, their hearts moved. Some people even took a deep gulp. This sort of miracle medicine simply could not be bought by money. Before, Elder Wang had passed down a decree to Lin Ming. There were 4 promised rewards. They were the heavy profound soft spear, the 500-year-old blood lingji, the blue miracle pill, and the body spiritual ichor. Although these rewards were staggeringly impressive, no one actually believed that Lin Ming could possibly obtain them. But now, Lin Ming had obtained more than one. As for the rest, it was not an extreme impossibility that he could take those too. This made those present feel jealous yet helpless. Lin Ming's strength had already been displayed before their eyes. There were no words they could say. Lin Ming held the blood lingji in both hands and respectfully bowed to Qin Zia. He said, "Thank you, Martial Housemaster." "Haha, do not thank me. This lingji is not mine, but from the 7 profound valleys to be a reward given to gifted disciples. Since you passed the test that I set for you, then you have earned this blood lingji." Lin Ming placed the blood lingji inside his spatial ring, and he also put away the thunderbolt devilfire bead that he had picked up. He had no intentions of giving this bead back to Ouyang de Hua. He guessed that Ouyang de Hua would not confront him over this, and moreover, Ouyang de Hua would not want to admit that he gave this bead to Zhong Guanyu. As Ouyang de Hua saw Lin Ming's movement, his complexion became increasingly gloomy. Lin Ming, since you covet the thunderbolt devilfire bead so much, then you should use it well. I will wait for the day that you casually experiment with it and then kill yourself in the explosion." Because of the duel between Zhong Guanyu and Lin Ming, the original act of the grand banquet had already completely lost any meaning. And now, with the appearance of the 7 profound martial housemaster, Qin Zia, the atmosphere had reached its climax. As far as martial artists were concerned, to meet the 7 profound martial housemaster was similar to a commoner meeting the emperor. He had supreme authority, and his strength far exceeded anyone else in the Sky Fortune Kingdom. Even if it were a famous Hutian master like Mui or Wang Xuanji, in the presence of Qin Zia, they weren't even worth mentioning. Ouyang de Hua had no interest in staying any longer. He patiently controlled his temper and said a few polite words to Qin Zia, and then flicked his sleeve and stormed away. Qin Zia had no intention to stay either. After all, he was a figure that liked to flit around with the wind. After he drank a few cups of tea, he also departed. Of this grand banquet, Although the original purpose had been completely washed away, most of the guests were still in high spirits. They had witnessed all kinds of battles. It could be said that the night had reached climax after climax, and they were fully satisfied. Of course, there were also those that were in a grim mood, such as the 10th prince, Yang Zhen. He had never imagined that Zhong Guanyu would suffer a crushing defeat by Lin Ming, and even have his hand turned into mush. Zhong Guanyu had wanted to cripple Lin Ming, and the result was that he became partially disabled. The 10th prince had just found an ally, but now that ally was already finished. Also, Zhong Guanyu was the one that linked him to Ouyang Dihua. Without Zhong Guanyu, it wasn't certain that Ouyang Dihua would continue supporting him. Thinking this, Yang Zhen felt nothing but bitterness. Lin Ming was simply his life's darkest nemesis. Certainly, there was one present who was in a much grimmer mood. This was the Allied Trade Association's head of the Zhong family, Zhong Fengxian. When Zhong Guanyu was taken away, Zhong Fengxian felt as if the raging blood in his heart was rolling. He was immediately filled with a monstrous killing intent, and wanted to tear Lin Ming to shreds. But his personality was different to Zhong Guanyu's. He was at the helm of the Allied Trade Association, so he had to maintain his reasoning and calm. He knew that at this moment he could not deal with Lin Ming. If he was too hasty, then it would absolutely be his Allied Trade Association that would suffer. Chapter 155 Miniature Thunder Fire Killing Array. Chapter 155 Miniature Thunder Fire Killing Array. Chapter 155 Miniature Thunder Fire Killing Array. Since I've offended them, what's done is done, it's no big deal. Ouyang Dihua might be a little tricky to deal with, but I am not afraid of the Allied Trade Association at all. After all, the Allied Trade Association was only a civilian organization. It was true that they had a very deep pockets of resources and a long history, but they still had to comply with the rules of the Seven Profound Martial House. But Ouyang Dihua was different. Even if he followed the rules of the Seven Profound Martial House on the surface, he might secretly try to murder him. If the Allied Trade Association wanted to assassinate him, then that would provoke the utter outrage of the Seven Profound Martial House. Qin Zia would never let this happen. The only result would be that the Allied Trade Association would meet with an apocalyptic disaster. But if Ouyang Dihua wanted to assassinate him, then that was a different story. Ouyang Dihua had the backing of a Seven Profound Valleys elder. As long as he didn't leave any evidence, not even Qin Zia could touch him, and he would finally have to drop the matter. I must be careful of Ouyang Dihua. Before I have the strength to resist him, I must go out as little as possible. My top priority right now should be to increase my strength. As Lin Ming thought this, he took out 2 items from his spatial ring, the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead and the Bloodlingji. He was not in a hurry to consume the Bloodlingji. Before, when he had taken the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill and the Golden Snake Scarlet Pill, there had been some pill toxins that were left in his body. He needed to cultivate for a longer period of time and completely refine the impurities out of his body, and wait for his true essence to stabilize before he could consume the Bloodlingji and fully absorb its effects. As for the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead, although it was a one-time use item, its power didn't seem small, and it was obviously valuable. Lin Ming looked at this bead. He wanted to search for any clues that would indicate how to use it. The bead was the side of a longan, and was an icy blue color. It had an extremely cold surface, and it was chillingly cold in his hand. He couldn't discern anything special about it. Lin Ming cautiously investigated the bead with his soul force. As soon as he began to probe, his mind moved. Millimeter? Array formation? In the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead was a myriad of dense runes. These were array symbols. The inscription symbols seemed to have not unified into a complete array formation. It seems to belong to millimeter. I see, I understand. In Lin Ming's memories about array formations, there was more than the one kind that involved inscription symbols. The second time that Lin Ming had entered into the infinite space of the magic cube, he had absorbed the soul fragment of a mighty elder array master. Lin Ming had completely sealed away this array master's array formation memories, and had not studied them. The main reason for this was simply that his cultivation was at too low a realm, and he didn't have the ability or money to create those large arrays. The original plan was to wait until he reached the Xiantian realm to begin studying the formation array memories again, but now, after having seen the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead, Lin Ming found something that surprised him. So an array formation can also be used like this. Lin Ming muttered as he looked at the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead. He understood that this Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead was, in essence, a highly compressed thunder fire killing array. Lin Ming had originally thought that an array formation had to be arranged in a large manner, and it could only be used passively. A person had to step inside the array formation before it could display its surpassing might. Even the memories of array formation from the mighty elder from the realm of the gods were also like this. That mighty elder knew many different varieties of complex array formations. If they had to be classified, they would be imprisoning arrays, killing arrays, illusory arrays, sealing arrays, and so forth. The function of an imprisoning array was to trap the enemy within, a killing array was to kill an enemy, an illusory magic array was to let an enemy be lost in an endless dreamland so they could never awaken or to ruin their mental state, and a sealing array was to make seals. Lin Ming never knew that an array formation could be condensed into such a small bead, and then thrown at others to attack them. If the bead contained a killing array, it could kill people. If it contained an illusory array, it would cause the other party to be swarmed by countless phantasmal illusions. During a battle, even if there was a great disparity in strength between two parties, if the weaker one were to throw a powerful bead like this, then they would likely change the tide of battle. What an imaginative idea! As Lin Ming studied the array formations within the bead, he couldn't help but praise the 7 profound valleys. The 7 profound valleys had a legacy that dated back 600 years. The sect was founded by 7 individuals, each with various abilities and strengths, including one that especially studied array formations. Of course, it was not necessarily only the 7 profound valleys that had invented this ingenious method, it was likely that this was spread throughout the entire Sky Spill continent. This was the first time that Lin Ming had discovered something that was not found within the realm of the gods. Any plane cannot be underestimated, even if they have a short history. After all, in these tens of thousands of years, who knows how many geniuses have emerged? But of course, this bead is not necessarily something that cannot be found in the realm of the gods. It was very possible that the mighty elder array master hadn't learned it yet. The realm of the gods was incomparably vast, and its legacies and inheritances were countless. Not learning some things was inevitable. Because of this bead, Lin Ming began to carefully fuse with the array formation memories from that elder array master. This integration took the entire evening and even lasted until late into the next morning. It was only then that Lin Ming finally sorted out all the detailed information. So that's how it is. In this bead, fire and thunder are kept apart from each other. If they were primed with a bit of true essence, the fire and thunder would intersect, and it would explode. If someone doesn't understand how to use this, it is very likely they would just blow themselves up. The energy contained in this tiny bead is extremely potent. If it were to explode next to an early pulse condensation period martial artist, they would die. No wonder Ouyang Dihua gave me a strange look when I picked up this bead. He was looking forward to me killing myself in the explosion. With the fusion of the memories, Lin Ming had become completely clear on the roles and functions of the different symbols in the bead's array formation. He even had a degree of certainty that he could produce a replica Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead. Of course, the one he produced would have a much weaker effect, at most it could deal with a Viscera training stage martial artist. The complexity of an array formation is much higher than that of inscription symbols. If I want to reach some achievements in array formation and produce a bead that has attack power higher than my own, then I will have to put in an extensive amount of time and energy. Right now I'm low on time, so I'll have to leave this array formation for later. Although he was envious of the power of the different possible beads, these things still could not directly increase his strength. Since he needed to spend an overwhelming amount of time to study the intricacies, Lin Ming had delayed this for now. After a long period of research, Lin Ming even found some ways to improve the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead, and could even enhance the power of the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead by several tenths. Of course, to complete this sort of improvement required that he had a foundation array formation technique that was high enough. At present, Lin Ming was unable to complete this task. He used an entire night to study the Thunderbolt Devilfire bead. Although he didn't have any substantial gains, the bead had given Lin Ming a great inspiration, and let him see another way to enhance his combat effectiveness. Of course, the most fundamental way to enhance one's own combat prowess was to look at oneself. The first thing Lin Ming had to do now was to consolidate his altering muscle cultivation. Also, he had to create an inscription symbol for the heavy, profound, soft spear. Early on, Lin Ming had already selected a suitable inscription symbol. This inscription symbol technique had one character, astral. The astral inscription symbol did not have any attribute, but it was able to increase the efficiency of true essence by a mind-boggling 50%, while simultaneously have a special skill of inscription, astral spear. The reason this skill of inscription was special was because it did not increase the combat strength of a weapon. Instead, it extended a weapon's range of attack. After one activated astral spear, true essence would enter and become part of the spear. Theoretically, as long as a martial artist's true essence was powerful enough, the spear could be infinitely extended. The value of the rare materials required for this inscription symbol was steep. Although it was much easier than looking for those needed in the body inscription symbols, it was not so easy to collect them in a short time. Lin Ming prepared a list of required materials and sent them to the Inscription Association. He would use his usual method and trade rare materials for an inscription symbol. Those who wanted one of his inscription symbols would have to bring a rare and precious material that he needed. Sky Fortune City, Allied Trade Association. Zhong Guanyu had been lying comatose on the bed for an entire day and night. His face was pale white like funeral paper, and his right hand had been amputated from the wrist down. Unless he managed to find a miracle treasure that could regenerate a limb, he was destined to be forever crippled. At Zhong Guanyu's side were 6 maids carefully taking care of him. Suddenly, Zhong Guanyu's eyelids moved. The young master has awakened. The maids saw Zhong Guanyu wake up, and immediately went to inform the masters. Soon, a very well-maintained lady was heard trotting into the room. As she saw Zhong Guanyu's miserable appearance, she broke down, and her tears were like a line of beads that rolled down her cheeks. This lady was Zhong Guanyu's mother and also Zhong Fengxian's wife. As the first lady of the Allied Trade Association, she was an extremely cruel and vicious individual. As the saying went, like mother, like son. Zhong Guanyu's perverse and demented personality was largely inherited from his mother. "My son," the lady tearfully wailed. It seemed as if Zhong Guanyu had not even heard his mother's mournful cries. He looked at his right arm's amputated hand and his lips sorrowfully trembled. His hand was gone. "My hand." Zhong Guanyu's anger filled every fiber of his being, and he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. As an extremely arrogant person, if he suffered such a major blow, it was easy for him to fly into a rage from the psychological damage. It was possible he might even go mad or berserk. "No. There is still hope. I can cultivate the divine acacia power to the 8th layer or find some medicine that can regenerate limbs. There is still hope." Zhong Guanyu madly clenched his teeth together and began to revolve the divine acacia power. The legends said that if one cultivated the divine acacia power to the fabled 8th layer, it was even possible for dismembered limbs to be reborn. But as he began to exercise his power, he only felt as if there were countless needles stabbing through his body. As soon as he looked within himself, he found his meridians. His meridians had all been torn to shred. "No." Zhong Guanyu let out a roar, his vision went dark, and he immediately fainted. As Zhong Guanyu fell into a coma again, his mother and the several maids were all thrown into immediate confusion. Ouyang Dihua was standing outside, and his look was gloomy throughout all of this. He understood, Zhong Guanyu was now crippled for life. Now that Zhong Guanyu was crippled trash, half the plans that he came to the Sky Fortune Kingdom for were ruined. It was now impossible to collect the 12 pure yin girls. It was the Allied Trade Association that handled the purchasing and selling of maids throughout the various countries. They were the only ones who could cobble together 12 pure yin girls with the correct horoscope. Ouyang Dihua clenched his fist. All of this was thanks to Lin Ming. Not only did Lin Ming wreck his own good plans, but he had also ruined what face he had in front of everyone. ignored his commands, and had severely wounded Zhong Guanyu. And what was most shameful was that he had not been able to strike Lin Ming, and his oppressive aura had no effect on him. There was no way he could endure this insult. Lin Ming, I will definitely kill you. Chapter 156 Devouring Lava Fire. Chapter 156 Devouring Lava Fire. Chapter 156 Devouring Lava Fire. The news of Lin Ming crippling Zhong Guanyu quickly spread throughout Sky Fortune City. Prior to this, Zhong Guanyu was a martial artist whose talent was only inferior to Qin Xingxuan throughout the entire Sky Fortune Kingdom. He was simply a favored child of the heavens. Now, in just a single night, he had been completely wasted. This was an astonishing matter. Moreover, when Lin Ming had crippled Zhong Guanyu, it was in the presence of Ouyang Dihua. Ouyang Dihua, whose cultivation was already at the pulse condensation period, had personally moved, but he still had not been able to stop Lin Ming. Afterwards, when Lin Ming faced Ouyang Dihua, he was not even forced back a tiny step by his oppressive aura. If it were not for the timely arrival of the 7 profound martial housemaster, there would have been no end to that night. This chain of events caused Lin Ming's public image to suddenly become decisive and ruthless. In just 2.5 months of time, he had defeated Zhong Guanyu. There was no longer any doubt that Lin Ming would surpass Ling Sen and Ta Ku in the future. He was only 15 years old, his future achievements could only be imagined. If such a fierce person was also so decisively ruthless. Thinking this, everyone could not help but grow a thought in their mind. They absolutely could not provoke Lin Ming. 7 Profound Martial House, Skyrage Mountain. This volcano was located 700 miles west of Ju Mountain. This was Sky Fortune Kingdom's most active group of volcanoes. If one walked around the craters, the thick pervasive sulfuric gas would choke their nose. These heated rocks underfoot could be used to fry eggs, and in the rivers of flowing lava, one could see dark red magma bubbles with molten iron chunks floating within. Even if the ground didn't appear to have any problems, one could not hastily step on it. Because the ground could be a shell of cooled magma, if a foot stepped on it, it was possible to crush that layer of cooled magma, and lava would spew out and immediately devour whoever stood there. This was the fire array of the 7 Profound Martial House's 7 major killing arrays, Lava Cave. As soon as Lin Ming arrived via the 7 Profound Martial House's transmission array, he immediately felt a sweltering heat wave crash into him. The rocks underneath were red like garnet crystals. A normal person would simply not be able to put a single foot down. Good lava cave. Lin Ming highly praised. The lava cave and icy pond waterfall were just like their names. One was extremely hot, the other was extremely cold. Both had a similar function, but were slightly different. The icy pond waterfall focused on tempering the body. A martial artist would resist the cold, and the true essence would thoroughly penetrate through to every inch of skin, flesh, and blood. But the lava cave tempered true essence. For any number of reasons, when a martial artist cultivated martial arts, their true essence would always contain some impurities, and would not be pure. The function of the lava cave was to force a martial artist to use their true essence to resist the scorching heat, and the burning heat would smelt away the impurities within the true essence. What Lin Ming cultivated was the chaotic virtues combat meridians. The true essence within him was already thick and extremely pure, so there was simply no need for him to enter the lava cave. However, Lin Ming had eaten the Crimson Gold Dragon Marrow Pill and the Golden Snake Scarlet Pill. These 2 pills had directly increased his cultivation and even further increased the rate of his cultivation for a period. But they had still left behind some impurities and pill toxins in Lin Ming's true essence. Through these recent days of cultivation, Lin Ming had constantly been refining out these impurities from his body, but there were always some left behind and they were not completely removed. Now that Lin Ming needed to take the 500-year-old bloodlingji, he had to ensure that the true essence within his body was as pure as possible. Otherwise the impurities would accumulate, and it would become ever more difficult to eliminate them. Junior apprentice brother Lin, you came. The deacon's senior apprentice brother responsible for the lava cave said with a laugh. Guarding the lava cave was a chore. Although they did not fear the blistering heat waves, that didn't mean that they liked to stay in a steamer all day long. 11th level of difficulty, 2 hours. Thank you, senior apprentice brother. Since this was the first time Lin Ming had come to the lava cave, he planned to choose a difficulty in accordance with his own abilities. As for the 12th level of difficulty, that was a setting that not even Ling Sen could persist in, so he had no interest in trying it yet. Millimeter, okay. The deacon did not believe that Lin Ming would have any difficulties in the 11th level of difficulty. In the 7 major killing arrays, the array formation was usually placed there to increase the natural forces within. For instance, the array formation in the icy pond waterfall would cause the force of the waterfall to be stronger and the icy pond to be colder. The violent wind tunnel would have more violent wind and all sorts of various vortices and turbulent tornadoes. But the lava cave was the exception to this. The main role of the array formation was actually to weaken the natural force, so that the temperature of the lava would fall. The temperature of ordinary lava was at least 10 times hotter than boiling water, and Skyrage Mountain's lava was even hotter than that. Because Skyrage Mountain also produced dark steel, the lava had mixed with dark steel ore. The temperature of it was higher, it was about 20 times hotter than boiling water. Not to mention a mere body transformation martial artist, but even if a Hutian realm martial artist were to jump in, their bones would be fried to a crisp. Lin Ming had chosen the 11th level of difficulty. The temperature of the lava was a full 8 times hotter than boiling water. Still, this temperature could already melt many different metals. As he arrived inside the lava cave at the 11th level of difficulty, Lin Ming stripped himself of all his clothes. If he stepped into the lava pond with his clothes on, they would all be immediately burnt to cinders. Naturally, he had to be naked for this. Barefoot, he walked on the blistering hot rocks towards the lava pond. The red-hot lava was just like boiling molten iron, and it reflected on Lin Ming's face, giving him a tomato-like appearance. Occasionally a huge bubble emerged from the lava, burst open, and sprayed hot and toxic gases as it issued a dull sound. To jump into this pool of lava required great courage and a firm heart. A martial artist whose mind was not tenacious would not even dare to cultivate within the lava cave. Lin Ming revolved his true essence to the limit, took a deep breath, and jumped into the lava pond. Splash! Lin Ming's feet had just fallen into the lava. However, his body was sinking at a very slow rate. The lava had an unusually viscous texture. If a martial artist were quick enough, they might even be able to run atop the lava. So hot! Lin Ming felt as if his legs had stepped into a blazing brazier. Although he was protected by his true essence, the burning ache was like a blazing knife was cutting through him, almost unbearable. The resistance of the lava began to decline. Taking a deep breath, Lin Ming's entire body immediately plunged into the fiery lava pond. In the world of lava, scalding hot glowing red light was everywhere, visibility was zero. Lin Ming couldn't even see his hands. He revolved his true essence to condense into a sort of true essence clothing that covered his body. Even with this though, Lin Ming could still feel pain like sizzling needles as the flow of heat traveled through his true essence clothing. In the icy pond waterfall, once a martial artist physically contacted the icy cold water, they could direct the frosty energy to enter their body and temper their organs, blood, and skin. But in the lava cave, no matter how fierce a martial artist, they were not dumb enough to let their body directly touch the hot lava. Inside the lava, there was also a toxic heat. If one breathed in a few mouthfuls of this smoke, it was possible that they would immediately die. Therefore one had to form true essence clothing and isolate themselves from the lava. Then, meticulously, they would slowly introduce the fire of the lava into their bodies, and burn away the impurities contained within their true essence. This was an exceptionally perilous method of cultivation. If one didn't have a sufficient level of cultivation and jumped in, they could easily burn their meridians and cause irreparable damage. Even if one had a high enough level of cultivation, it was easy to leave hidden injuries after long-term use of tempering true essence with fire. Because of these reasons, of the 7 major killing arrays, the lava cave was the loneliest. One didn't even need to make an appointment, they just had to come and momentarily wait to have a position. Kai 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 kai. Lin Ming could even hear the sound of true essence burning against the hot flaming lava. But Lin Ming was in a hurry to introduce the lava's fire into his body. He shut his eyes in meditation, and adjusted his mental state for half an incense stick of time. He let his mind completely relax, and entered into a deep ethereal state before he began to gingerly introduce the fire of lava into his body. As soon as a small flame entered Lin Ming's body, it was like a fierce crimson fire flood dragon that tried to rush left and right. However, Lin Ming's true essence was incomparably thick, and no matter where it rushed, it was unable to create any damage. Lin Ming quickly subdued the wisp of lava fire, and it obediently circulated through the meridians in his body, burning away the impurities. Lava fire not only burned away impurities, but it also burned away pure true essence. However, true essence was able to quickly regenerate, the accumulated impurities could not. Lin Ming introduced wisp after wisp of lava fire into his body. Gradually, there were dozens of fire wisps inside of Lin Ming's body. A small flame did not count for much. However, there were so many flame wisps that were rushing about, that even though Lin Ming's true essence was so thick and pure, he still felt that it was difficult to control. His face was very red, and the blue veins of his forehead were bulging from the intense pressure he was feeling. He continuously exuded large beads of sweat, but as soon as these beads met the sizzling heat, they immediately evaporated before they could even fall. Because of the atrophy of the true essence clothing, Lin Ming's hair had been singed by the heat. It broke upon a light touch. Lin Ming withdrew a true essence stone from his spatial ring and placed it in his hands. He began to absorb the true essence from the true essence stone as he grinded his teeth together and forcefully revolved the true primal chaos formula. Under such a difficult state, the impurities in Lin Ming's body began to melt away at a very slow rate. Again and again, the impurities continued to decrease, and true essence stones were completely used up one after another. In half an hour he had used a pure true essence stone. This kind of excessive method of burning away money was something that not even the juniors of large aristocratic families could do. A pure true essence stone costed 1,000 gold taels. It could be considered half a treasure. The lava fire in his body began to grow more and more wild. The countless tiny units in Lin Ming's body began to breathe at the same frequency, suppressing the restless wisps of fire. But even so, Lin Ming was finding it more and more difficult to persist. At this point, Lin Ming was considering temporarily leaving the lava pond. Otherwise, if he stayed down any longer, it was possible that he would damage his meridians, or even be burned to death. But if he left the lava pond halfway, the amount of impurities that would be burned away would truly be reduced by a great deal. Lin Ming struggled with his hesitation, when at this moment, a wisp of fire lava burst into the aorta near Lin Ming's heart. This is bad. Lin Ming was shocked. The heart was the center of the blood. If it was damaged, he would suffer a life-threatening injury. He began to move true essence to stop the flame, but it was already too late. The violent lava fire broke through the ventricle and rushed around, as if it were trying to create a hole in Lin Ming's heart. But at this moment, the sleeping heretical god seed in Lin Ming's heart suddenly burst out. A surge of highly compressed, fierce and brutal true essence instantly surrounded that wisp of lava fire. With a light puff sound, that wisp of lava fire had been directly devoured by the heretical god seed. Millimeter? Lin Ming's mind blanked for a moment. The heretical god seed could actually devour the fire of lava. Lin Ming probed with his soul force, and was utterly shocked to find that the lava fire had already fully integrated into the heretical god seed, and had become a part of the heretical god seed. Chapter 157, Flame Essence. Chapter 157, Flame Essence. Could this be? Lin Ming tried to introduce another wisp of lava fire into his heart, and coincidentally, the result was that the second wisp of lava fire was also devoured by the heretical god seed. This time, Lin Ming had a vague understanding of the principle. The function of the heretical god seed was to gather energy, and to compress true essence. Lava fire was also one kind of energy, thus it was directly eaten up by the heretical god seed. Lin Ming cautiously probed with his soul force and found that after swallowing the two wisps of lava fire, the heretical god seed seemed to breathe. This breath was very weak, almost imperceptible, but it seemed as if, Because of this breath, the heretical godseed had grown a little bit. With this, Lin Ming was pleasantly surprised. He didn't think that he would inadvertently find a way to cultivate the heretical godseed. However, if this growth was sustained, what kind of changes would occur? This question caused Lin Ming to feel somewhat worried. According to the memories of the mighty elder, he had found the heretical god force skill manual within a long-lost ancient ruin in the realm of the gods. There was a very high possibility that this secret skill was the last vestige left behind by an evil god. When the mighty elder had discovered the heretical god force, it had already been sealed away for tens of thousands of years. After the mighty elder has obtained this mystical technique, he had scrupulously hidden it away, and had not even revealed the slightest hint of this secret. The heretical god force was absolutely unique within the entirety of the realm of the gods, only that mighty elder had knowledge of it. That was why that mighty elder had believed that the heretical god force was the most precious amongst all of the arcane and mystical skills within the realm of the gods. Even the golden rock shattering the void was less precious. However, that mighty elder had merely cultivated the heretical god force to the third layer, and then he had followed Tian Mingzi to the verdant feather sacred lands to steal the divine crystal magic cube. Ultimately, not only did he not manage to obtain the magic cube, but he had lost his life in the process, and his soul was twisted and broken into pieces, then sealed into the magic cube. From the time that the mighty elder had found the heretical god force to the time that he died, it had only been a dozen or so years. In those years, that mighty elder had been cultivating the heretical god force as some sort of supplementary secret skill. He hadn't discerned the vast mysteries of the heretical god seed. He didn't know that the heretical god seed could do something like swallow lava fire, nor was that something he had ever thought of. If it wasn't for a lucky break, it would have been impossible for even Lin Ming to imagine that the heretical god seed had such a mysterious function like this. The heretical god seed continuously devoured the lava fire. At the start, Lin Ming only introduced a small amount of lava fire into his heart, and then he began to send a colossal amount. The heretical god seed didn't reject any, it welcomed the burning flames with open arms. The lava fire was oppressive and tyrannical, but the heretical god seed was even more domineering. However much the fire lava tried to struggle, it could not escape the true essence shackles of the heretical god seed. The heretical god seed fused with the lava fire for 5 to 6 hours. Lin Ming didn't know how much lava fire had been devoured, but he had a faint feeling that the surrounding magma temperature had dropped. As the heretical god seed engulfed the lava fire, it began to slowly grow. At the start, it had been the size of a grain of rice, but now it became the size of a mung bean. Gradually, a deep crimson wisp of a flame began to float around the heretical god seed. The heretical god seed bathed in the flame, and was suffused with a ruby-red light. A small spark emerged from the side of the heretical god seed, it began to circle around it. If Lin Ming hadn't been looking carefully, it would simply have gone unnoticed. This is flame essence. Lin Ming was shocked. The fires of the world had a soul. As long as this fire was able to exist for a long time in a remote place, it was possible that it would give birth to flame essence. For instance, in the deepest pits of an underground magma pool, flame essence could be born. Or, in a location where yin and yang intersected, frost fire essence could be born. The difference between normal fire and flame essence was that normal fire had to have materials to combust, or else it would be extinguished. However, flame essence was eternal. It could even be used as kindling to create storms of flame that could burn down a forest. No matter how much fire was created, the flame essence would not weaken. This was why some alchemists and refiners would travel the world to the most remote, savage, and dangerous dungeons in order to seek out a flame essence. They would devote all of their efforts to subdue it for their own use. Lin Ming had never thought that a flame essence would actually be born from his own heart. Of course, this flame essence seemed to the weakest flame essence in the entire world. It was only the size of a spark, and it had been bred from low-level fire lava. He had no idea where he would need to go to find higher-grade flames. But Lin Ming did not underestimate it. If the heretical god seed could unendingly devour more and more exotic flames, would the fire essence change along with it? Lin Ming continued to stimulate wisps of lava fire into his body to see if the heretical god seed would absorb them. But this time Lin Ming found that any new lava fire was only compressed around the heretical god seed, and no longer fused into the flame essence. It seemed as if the heretical god seed had already achieved a state of saturation. It might have been because this lava fire was simply too weak, so it couldn't meet the needs of the heretical god seed's growth. This lava fire that had been compressed was just like the true essence that had been compressed within the heretical god seed. Now, the heretical god seed contained not only a massive amount of compressed true essence, but also compressed fire lava. It was just like a powder keg that contained a truly terrifying amount of explosive energy. What rich flame energy! But if this energy was released, then, Lin Ming had a bit of an apprehensive and jumpy feeling. The heretical god seed could condense energy. Not only did it condense true essence, but it also condensed flames. With so much compressed energy within Lin Ming's heart, he inevitably felt very wary. Lin Ming consoled himself. Since this was an ancient secret technique that was left behind in some ancient ruins within the realm of the gods, it was very unlikely to suddenly explode, right? By now, Lin Ming had perked up. If the heretical god seed can swallow lava fire, can it also swallow other forms of energy, like lightning? Now aware of this possibility, Lin Ming had a very odd look on his face. Of the 7 major killing arrays, there was also a thunder array. It was Thunder Valley. If he wanted to absorb the power of lightning, then he would have to go there. But he had already compressed so much fire energy. If he also absorbed the power of lightning, then Lin Ming couldn't help but gulp. Lightning and fire were both relatively violent and wild energies. If both were combined, then it might even explode. Since the heretical god seed was in Lin Ming's heart, if there was an accident, it wouldn't even be a joke. Lin Ming was a bit afraid of this possibility. But he could not resist the temptation of this idea. This formidable and mysterious secret technique was unique within the entirety of the realm of the gods. Moreover, this secret skill seemed to have unlimited potential. If he could absorb lava fire and condense that into a flame essence, then what would happen if he were to absorb lightning? With such a powerful force placed in front of Lin Ming and within his grasp, how could he not be tempted? The heretical god force is a secret skill that was left behind by an ancient evil god, and it has far more functions than the mighty elder from the realm of the gods was aware of. It's a pity that the mighty elder died so quickly, so he hadn't been able to study it further. Now I have only myself to analyze it. I'll just try to absorb the energy of lightning while observing with my soul force. If I find that any accident might happen, then I will immediately force out the thunder energy. Although the potential power of the heretical god force was tempting, if Lin Ming didn't have his life, then any power would simply be worthless. Thinking this, Lin Ming decided to give Thunder Valley a try. Dew Mountain was several hundreds of miles long. It had numerous canyons and dangerously steep peaks. At a distance not too far away from the 7 Profound Martial House, there was a palace made of glazed tiles that was located above such a peak. The palace was not overly large, but it was magnificently built and gilded in pure gold and the finest jade. This was where the current 7 Profound envoy lived, 7 Profound Palace. At this time, in a secret room within the 7 Profound Palace, Ouyang de Hua was sitting gloomily in a chair. In front of him was a very feminine-looking man. This feminine-looking man was the other deputy housemaster of the 7 Profound Martial House, Bai Luo. Bai Luo had long ago once taken Ouyang Boyon as his master, and was considered Ouyang de Hua's senior apprentice brother. However, Bai Luo's outwardly feminine appearance was simply too strong. The underlying concepts behind the Acacia faction's cultivation methods were to complement their yang energy with the yin energy of others. It was most suited for virile and exuberant young men to cultivate. Bai Luo had cultivated this for several years with low results and had only become increasingly like a woman. As for his cultivation, he hadn't made many great gains in it. Afterwards, with no other path left, Bai Luo had withdrawn from the Acacia faction and joined the Mirage faction. The Mirage faction was a strange and mysterious sect of the 7 Profound Valleys. Their founder was a woman, and almost all of their faction disciples were women. They were proficient in all sorts of illusionary powers. The Mirage faction's cultivation was most suitable for women to cultivate, it was simply impossible for others. Bai Luo had practiced this women's cultivation method, and it was actually within his element. Now, Bai Luo had reached the middle Hutian realm and also the fourth layer of the Dreamheart magic cultivation method. Every illusion that he created was without the slightest flaw, even a peak Hutian stage master would be hard-pressed to see through it. For what matter did junior apprentice brother call me today? And you also chose to talk in a secret room. Not only did Bai Luo have the looks of a woman, but he also spoke with the gentle voice of a woman. Listening to it caused Ouyang Dihua to feel quite uncomfortable. Ouyang Dihua unconsciously pushed his chair back and opened up some distance between him and Bai Luo. He said, I called senior apprentice brother here today because I want senior apprentice brother to help me kill a man. Oh, is it Lin Ming? Bai Luo asked with a faint smile. Although he hadn't attended the banquet, he knew of the scene in which Ouyang Dihua had admitted defeat to Lin Ming and had lost face. This Lin Ming was not a simple boy. Yes, him. Ouyang Dihua did not hide anything in front of Bai Luo. After that duel at the banquet, Zhong Guanyu had fallen into a coma for 1 day and 1 night. When he awoke, all of the meridians throughout his body had been wasted, and he had lost all of his martial arts cultivation. Now, he was nothing more than a bumbling invalid that had lost his mind. Zhong Guanyu had been wasted, and Ouyang Dihua's hopes of attaining the 12 pure Yin girls had been wasted along with him. Ouyang Dihua could not forgive Lin Ming because of this. This might be tricky. After all, I am a deputy housemaster of the 7 profound martial house. If news that I killed my own disciple were to leak out, that would just be hard to hear. Not only that, but Lin Ming will soon become a 7 profound martial house core disciple. He has status and influence, and Qin Zia thinks highly of him. If I was to deal with him and this became known, it would be a very serious matter. Although Bai Luo had a certain friendship with Ouyang Dihua, it wasn't to the point where he would bring a disaster upon himself. He had a poor relationship with Qin Zia. If Qin Zia found a chance, he would definitely seize that opportunity to finish him. Chapter 158 Thunder Valley. Chapter 158 Thunder Valley. Chapter 158 Thunder Valley. This doesn't matter. I do not need you to kill him. I only need a favor from you. I have already sent for someone to kill him. If this is successful, then I will have my uncle speak a few good words to your master so that he'll pass on some cultivation methods to you. In the 7 profound valleys, a deputy housemaster was considered a disciple of relatively low status and thus was less valued. This was the reason Ouyang Dihua had used his uncle as a lure. Bai Luo cheerfully said, haha, then I will first apologize to junior apprentice brother. But why did you ask someone to assassinate Lin Ming? Can you not do it yourself? Ouyang Dihua said, killing Lin Ming isn't a trivial matter. Even if I have my uncle supporting me and I do not leave any evidence that could be used against me, it's still better to not be public and arouse suspicious. When I send someone to kill Lin Ming, I'll attend some banquets and stay out of sight. As long as the matter is cleanly executed, no one will dare to question me. Bai Luo licked his lips. Who did you prepare to go? If their strength is too weak, it will just be like meat dumplings attacking a dog. Once they go they won't return. Don't worry. I've already asked a nearby senior apprentice brother in the Sky Fortune Kingdom. He used to be in the Refiner faction, but he violated the sect rules and was expelled from the 7 profound valleys. I have some friendship with him and his cultivation has already reached the peak pulse condensation period, and his battle strength is not underneath mine. As long as I promise him some benefits and he does this, then that would be for the best. What's even better is that he is someone who was originally a loner, and likes to wander around aimlessly. At that time, even if they find him, they won't be able to discover anything from him. In terms of cultivation, Ouyang Dihua was at the middle pulse condensation period. But, the cultivation methods that he studied in the Acacia faction were mostly to fight and kill others. His senior apprentice brother was from the Refiner faction, and he was best at refining. His fighting technique was a bit lacking. So because of this, their combat efficiency was similar. Peak pulse condensation period? Haha, you actually want to use a peak pulse condensation period master to deal with a little child who has just entered the altering muscle stage? You must think very highly of Lin Ming. Ouyang Dihua said, Lin Ming is not a normal boy at the altering muscle stage. Not only that, but he also has the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead in his possession. That weapon can kill an early pulse condensation period martial artist. Although it isn't easy to use the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead to strike a pulse condensation period martial artist, I still have to be careful, so I'm using my full force against him. If it wasn't for the fact that it was difficult to find a Hutian realm martial artist on such short notice, I would have already asked a Hutian realm martial artist to deal with here. Millimeter, it seems that as long as you can get Lin Ming alone, then he will die. But how do you plan on creating the opportunity to kill Lin Ming? Don't worry about that, I have my ways. Let me ask you first, what relation does Qin Zia have with Lin Ming? What kind of relation? Well, Qin Zia thinks highly of Lin Ming and has high hopes for his future achievements. He thinks that he will be able to find a new friend and helper for the future. Soon, the 7 profound valleys will send down someone to take in the core disciples of the nearby martial houses. Qin Zia is anxiously in a hurry to raise up Lin Ming. I believe he thinks that Lin Ming will be able to give a good performance at the grand tournament so that it will pave his way when he wants to be promoted to an elder in the future. Although Qin Zia highly regards Lin Ming, his movements are erratic and he likes to travel. He might not even come back to the 7 profound martial house once a year. In these past 10 years, he has been walking through the deep valleys to cultivate his zither heart. It's impossible for him to be constantly protecting Lin Ming, their relation is not that deep. Millimeter, good, as long as Qin Zia is not at the 7 profound martial house, then I have complete confidence. Ouyang Dihua evilly grinned. It was as if Lin Ming's life was already within his grasp. It was early in the morning and the sun had just risen up beyond the horizon and covered Dew Mountain in a thin layer of morning dew. The withered fall leaves on the ground were already glazed with a bit of night frost. Lin Ming held the heavy profound soft spear in his hand, quietly feeling the power of the flame essence within the heretical god seed. After a period of time, his body suddenly moved and his fist struck the trunk of a large tree. There was a dull thumping sound as the sky began to rain withered leaves as they rustled like a whirlwind. Lin Ming shook the heavy profound soft spear, flowers in the storm. There was only the sound of a spear piercing through the air. The heavy profound soft spear seemed to turn into a ghostly illusion and pierced all of the swirling leaves. After every leaf was pierced, a small amount of fire would be emitted and it would instantly burn the leaf into ash. Ever since the heretical god seed had undergone a minor transformation, Lin Ming hadn't found any difference when he had revolved the heretical god force. It was only that there was a small fire attribute imbued into his true essence. There were a portion of martial artists whose true essence had a special attribute. For instance, Bai Jingyun's true essence was of the water attribute. This was the reason she had paid a steep price to request Lin Ming draw up a water attribute inscription symbol for herself. The flame essence within the heretical god seed allowed Lin Ming to freely use the power of fire. Lin Ming had already expected this. After all, there were some refiners and alchemists who had subdued a flame essence and then were able to freely use the flame. These days, Lin Ming had been tempering his body's true essence and ridding it of impurities. Every day he would stay in the lava cave for 5 to 6 hours. Today, the impurities within his body had finally been burned away. With the suppressive power of the heretical god seed, the seemingly violent and dangerous lava fire became very docile. Otherwise, there was no way he could have refined out the impurities in his body so quickly. The heretical god seed was now the size of a mung bean. It was impossible for the lava fire to meet the needs of the heretical god seed. Lin Ming put away the heavy profound soft spear in his spatial ring, and prepared to go to Thunder Valley. This idea had already been floating in his mind for several days. Thunder Valley was located in a valley at the back of a distant mountain. The entire mountain valley was filled with magnetic dark steel ore. Magnetic dark steel ore had a positive and a negative pole, so it was able to attract lightning from the sky and even store the power of lightning. It was a commonly used material in refining. Because of this, at every thunderstorm, there would be roaring sounds of rolling thunder, and then countless lightning bolts would fall into Thunder Valley. Looking from afar, it was just like purple snakes chaotically dancing. It was very spectacular. After the 7 profound martial house was established, a Xiantian master had created the array formation of Thunder Valley. Now, thunder and lightning would rain down unceasingly, and the array formation had enclosed the power of the thunder and lightning inside special chambers so that one could use it for cultivation. Thus it had become one of the 7 major killing arrays, the Thunder Array. The Thunder Array was the most mysterious of the 7 major killing arrays. Only those disciples in the top 20 rankings would dare enter. It was also quite different from the other 6 major killing arrays. Thunder Valley only had 2 difficulties, the 11th and 12th. In the 7 major killing arrays, the 12th level of difficulty was basically useless. Not even Ling Sen could persist inside. This was especially true of Thunder Valley. The 12th level of difficulty was completely abnormal. Not even a veteran pulse condensation period martial artist would be able to stay inside for too long. This was the reason that Hong Shi had initially asked new disciples to not choose Thunder Valley. There was no need to mention the 12th level of difficulty. Even the 11th level of difficulty had thunder and lightning that would be able to instantly char a martial artist at the flesh training stage. When Lin Ming arrived at the entrance of Thunder Valley, he could already hear the rumbling of thunder from within. Junior apprentice brother Lin, the Thunder Valley Deacon's senior apprentice brother, stepped out from afar to greet Lin Ming. Senior apprentice brother. This is the first time that junior apprentice brother Lin has come to Thunder Valley. This Thunder Valley has a total 6 magnetic chambers. The first 5 are at the 11th level of difficulty and the last is at the 12th level of difficulty. Junior apprentice brother Lin may choose as he likes. But I recommend that you choose the 11th level of difficulty. As for that last magnetic chamber, even a pulse condensation period martial artist may not be able to withstand it. Millimeter. Thank you, senior apprentice brother. Lin Ming had already decided that he would select the 11th level of difficulty. He had even hoped for a lower degree of difficulty. A softer thunder would be easier to control, so as to avoid any random happenings like the heretical godseed exploding within him. Every magnetic chamber was 10 feet by 10 feet. The ground and walls of the magnetic chamber were completely formed from magnetic dark steel, and they shined with a deep blue light. Because the magnetic chamber was a completely enclosed space, the sound of the terrifying thunderclaps echoed in the room. If an ordinary person was to enter the room and be struck by these sound waves, their ears would bleed and their eardrums would rupture. It was even possible for low-frequency waves to shatter their organs, so they died a violent death right where they stood. The sound of this thunder had specific names. It was called tiger leopard thunder. This name was because when a tiger or leopard would growl or purr, if one placed a hand on their body, they could feel their arms vibrating. It was possible for one to borrow the power of this tiger leopard thunder to penetrate into the body and exercise the bones. This was why the bones of tigers were so formidable, and tiger bone wine was the most nourishing. A sign of a martial artist reaching the bone forging stage was tiger leopard thunder. When they raised their head they could roar like a tiger, and when they lowered their head they could purr like a leopard. Before Lin Ming entered the magnetic chamber, he had already used true essence to seal off his ears. Purple lighting crazily danced through the air and on the walls of the magnetic chamber. The rumbling sounds of the thunderclaps were able to manifest into shockwaves. If one stood in such a shockwave, they would have a clear feeling of their heartbeat rising and the organs of their body being driven into motion by the low and deep sound waves. This kind of feeling was very uncomfortable. Even if one's organs were protected by true essence, they would feel tightness in their chest and have difficulty breathing. This sort of low and deep sound wave was able to silently and invisibly kill people. This was because the frequency was too low for a person to hear it, but it would still dangerously resonate within the organs of a human body. Finally, a human could be split apart by this sound. Sissy dash. A beam of electricity rushed towards Lin Ming like some sort of poisonous snake. The bolt of electricity moved at lightning speed, and before Lin Ming could react to this electric light, he already felt his entire body go numb. Like this, the energy of thunder had already entered into Lin Ming's meridians. Lin Ming's spirits immediately lifted. He carefully manipulated this electric light to flow towards his heart. Watching with his soul force, the electric light entered into the heretical god seed. Lin Ming immediately became tense. His soul force was linked to the heretical god seed, and he was carefully aware of every slight change of energy within the heretical god seed. If anything seemed amiss, Lin Ming was prepared to immediately extinguish this wisp of thunder with all of his strength. However, what really happened was that this wisp of electric thunder submerged into the heretical god seed like a heavy rock into the ocean, and there was simply no change. Millimeter. Nothing happened. When the power of lightning entered into the heretical god seed, it did not result in any change. So Lin Ming began to introduce more and more threads of thunder and lightning into his body, and the result was that all of it was absorbed by the heretical god seed. This had freed Lin Ming's courage. He directly walked into a dancing electric snake. Lin Ming immediately felt his entire body go numb, and the power of the lightning was like a gush of water that poured into his body. The power of lightning was a very mysterious power. Rumors said that lightning itself was the source of all life. In the ancient texts, during ancient times when the heavens and earth had just opened and the land began to stabilize, the sky would shine with countless shimmering clouds of thunder. This thundercloud had sent out lightning that had split apart the ancient oceans and resulted in the first life. It can be said that the only reason there was the flesh and blood of today was because of the lightning of the past. This was why the power of thunder and lightning was best to train the strength of one's own body. Chapter 159, Thunder Soul. Chapter 159, Thunder Soul. Not only that, but Lin Ming also knew that within the body's countless tiny units, there was an extremely complex and mystical electric current that ran through. These electric currents were very weak, but they were a vital intermediary for the countless small units to contact each other and the body. If one did not have these tiny and weak electric currents, then the many activities of the human body would simply cease to function. Therefore, there were some mighty elders who studied unusual methods of cultivation that would fly into thunder clouds and direct the thunder and lightning to temper their body. They would cross the calamity of thunder and use it to enhance their own strength. However, while thunder was a force that gave birth to life, it was also a destructive force that destroyed life. It was able to turn flesh and blood to ashes and burn down vast forests. The way to control this power all rested in a martial artist's own hands. The 7 profound valleys Thunder Valley simultaneously had the tiger-leopard thunderclap and also lightning to temper the body. An ordinary disciple simply could not practice in such a maniacal and deranged way. That was why only the disciples that were in the top 20 ranks of the ranking stone would dare to enter. But not even the top 10 ranking disciples would dare to cultivate in Thunder Valley like Lin Ming did. He walked into that mass of chaotically twisting electric snakes and let the power of lightning penetrate into his body. Lin Ming began to feel the extremely uncomfortable feeling of having his entire body go numb. But soon, this numbness evolved into a thrilling and exciting feeling that caused Lin Ming to wish that a more violent thunder would descend upon him. Like this, the heretical god seed in Lin Ming's body devoured the lightning like a sponge absorbing water. The mung bean-sized heretical god seed began to slowly grow, and a faint violet light began to reflect upon its surface. Lin Ming stayed in the magnetic dark steel chamber for most of an hour. Slowly, he began to feel the surrounding power of thunder weaken, and also the roaring tiger-leopard thunderclaps weaken. They were no longer as deafening as they were at the start. Millimeter. Was the power of thunder in this magnetic dark steel chamber absorbed cleanly by me? Lin Ming opened his eyes and discovered that there were only 2 or 3 of the spasmodically dancing electric purple snakes along the walls, and not only that, but they had a rather dim and fading appearance. If Lin Ming stayed here for another quarter hour, then those 2 to 3 electricity snakes would probably be finished. Thunder Valley was different from the lava cave. The lava cave's lava pool was directly connected to a deep semi-active volcano below the mountain, so the lava fire was able to flow with a nearly inexhaustible supply. No matter how much was consumed, it would immediately be replaced by more. But Thunder Valley's magnetic dark steel room was sealed by a massive amount of magnetic dark steel, so that it was able to steer the thunder from a thunderstorm into the array and store the power of thunder and lightning. The amount of lightning that was stored was limited, so how could it withstand such a sweeping absorption by Lin Ming? I guess I'm done here. I should move to the 12th level of difficulty. Thinking this, Lin Ming left the magnetic dark steel chamber. Although Lin Ming had sucked dry most of the thunder power within the magnetic dark steel room, as long as there was another thunderstorm, then the power of thunder within the magnetic dark steel room would be replenished. Because of this, Lin Ming had no plans to be conservative with how much of the thunder power he absorbed, or to mention it. Junior apprentice brother came out so quickly, it's only been less than an hour. Would you like to take a rest? The Thunder Valley deacon saw Lin Ming exit from the magnetic chamber and greeted him with a smile. Lin Ming would become a core disciple sooner or later, so naturally he wanted to curry some favor with him. Junior apprentice brother, I have some Clarion Mind pills here. If you take them, it may clear up some of the numbness within your body. The deacon pulled out a small jar from a pocket as he said this and attentively handed it to Lin Ming. He believed that Lin Ming was unable to withstand the intense stimulation from the tempering of thunder and lightning upon his body, and had left the chamber. In fact, even if it were the top 10 ranked disciples, or even someone in the class of Zhong Guanyu, they would not be able to persist for too long within the magnetic dark steel chamber. Even they would need to absorb true essence stones and also take a Clarion Mind pill in order to barely hold on inside. The 11th level of difficulty in Thunder Valley far outstripped the difficulty of the other 6 major killing arrays. Lin Ming smiled and waved. He said, I thank senior apprentice brother for his kindness, but I do not need the Clarion Mind pills. I want to change the difficulty level. Well, does junior apprentice brother Lin not know that Thunder Valley only has 2 difficulties? They are the 11th and 12th levels. Because the nature of the power of thunder and lightning is simply too rebellious, the original array master who set this array formation did not have any way to force this power into obeying, so there are only 2 levels of difficulty. The deacon managed to awkwardly say, he thought that Lin Ming wanted to switch to a lower level of difficulty. Junior apprentice brother Lin, with your cultivation, as long as you take a Clarion Mind pill and true essence stones, it is absolutely no problem for you to be able to withstand the 11th level of difficulty. Lin Ming laughed and said, Millimeter, I know. I was going to ask to change to the 12th level of difficulty. What? The deacon was stunned. You want to enter the 12th level of difficulty? Lin Ming nodded. The deacon remained silent, he simply couldn't find the language to say anything. He knew that Lin Ming was very formidable, and had even defeated Zhong Guanyu, but the power of Thunder Valley's 12th level of difficulty was simply incomparably abnormal. Even a veteran pulse condensation period martial artist wouldn't be able to hold on inside. In fact, ever since the deacon had begun managing Thunder Valley, he had only opened the 12th level of difficulty a handful of times. Ling Sen had tried one time, but not even half an incense stick of time had passed before he scurried back out, his entire body scorched black. Besides him, there were also several core disciples who had tried. Although their natural talent was superior to Ling Sen's, their combat prowess was much lower, so their result was even worse and the electric strength had burnt off all their hair. The power of thunder within the 12th level of difficulty combined with the tiger leopard thunderclap was not a joke. Lin Ming was fierce, but could he be fiercer than Ling Sen? Junior apprentice brother Lin, the 12th level of difficulty in the magnetic dark steel chamber is something that not even a senior pulse condensation period martial artist can persist in. Not only that, but the array formation does not reduce the power of thunder inside. If junior apprentice Lin is injured then, the Thunder Valley deacon laid it out mildly. He was quite scared that Lin Ming would be electrocuted within and experience a tragedy. Of the 7 major killings arrays of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and lightning, all of them besides the lightning killing array had a certain capacity to independently judge a situation. If a martial artist were on the verge of death, the killing array would promptly stop. This was why there were only a few disciples that had died so far. But Thunder Valley was different. The snaking electricity flew in all directions, it simply wasn't something that could be stopped or fettered by the array formation. If one blacked out from the overwhelming electrical energy, then they would die. If the genius of the 7 profound martial house that was only seen once a century was to tragically die in Thunder Valley, then that would simply be too hilarious. Lin Ming sheepishly grinned. Well, I just want to give it a try. If I have any problems inside, then I will immediately come out. How about that? Well, all right. The Thunder Valley deacon could only agree to let Lin Ming try and give up afterwards. Ling Sen had been able to last half an incense stick of time. Since Lin Ming was inferior to Ling Sen, then he would probably be able to persist for a few dozen breaths without any problems. After all, junior apprentice brother Lin wasn't some silly little child. If he had problems, then he would definitely come out. Thinking this, the Thunder Valley deacon opened the last magnetic dark steel chamber gate. Lin Ming entered the 12th level difficulty magnetic dark steel chamber. This magnetic chamber was a full 300 by 300 feet square. This was also the first time that he had ever stepped into the 12th level difficulty of a major killing array. The 12th level difficulty truly was extraordinary. After Lin Ming stepped into the magnetic chamber, even though he was using true essence to protect his ears, the rumbling sound of thunder was enough to shock his ears with a deeply stinging pain. Long, thick, electric snakes several dozens of feet long waves back and forth like living lightning. Kai 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 kai, the detonating sounds of the electricity in the room made one's scalp tingle. Seeing such a thick electric snake, even Lin Ming felt a little jumpy. It was no wonder a pulse condensation period martial artist could not last in here. If such a thick electrical snake flowed through the human body, its powerful effects could be imagined. Lin Ming let out a light breath and began to revolve the true primal chaos formula. Then, he walked into that mass of electricity. Boom! As the electric current entered Lin Ming's body, he began to violently shake, nearly fainting. However, at the same time, the heretical god seed his heart began to become active again. As the heretical god seed bathed in the power of thunder, it began to emit a faint whimper of excitement. Countless flows of electrical current began to converge at his heart and flow into the heretical god seed, as if it was a parched man gulping down water. What a strong power of thunder, Lin Ming thought with amazement. Along with the influx of electricity into his heart, the heretical god seed began to riotously vibrate. Lin Ming locked onto it with his soul force to prevent any accidents, but it seemed that his concern was unnecessary. In the heretical god seed, the 3 compressed forces of true essence, flame, and thunder were able to peacefully coexist with each other. Lin Ming was simply amazed by the mystery of the heretical god force. At this moment, outside of the door leading to the magnetic dark steel chamber, the deacon's voice sounded out. Junior apprentice brother Lin, are you all right? Lin Ming found this funny. He replied with a laugh, I'm fine. In any case, the heretical god seed was able to spontaneously absorb the power of thunder. He wasn't worried about being distracted by responding. After another while, the senior apprentice brother deacon came up again and asked, Junior apprentice brother Lin, are you still all right? I'm okay. Lin Ming responded again. After another quarter hour crossed, the deacon's voice sounded behind the door again. Junior apprentice brother Lin, if you cannot withstand it, you should come out first. Don't force yourself. Lin Ming was speechless. This deacon's senior apprentice brother was long-winded enough. Time passed minute by minute, second by second. Soon, 2 hours had quietly gone. In the 12th level difficulty magnetic dark steel chamber, that mass of windingly thick electric snakes had already been evaporated, and what was left over were only a few weak electric currents that were still sparking as they passed along the walls. In Lin Ming's heart, the heretical god seed had grown to the size of a soybean, and the surface was covered with a layer of crystal-clear violet light. It had combined together with that garnet from the compressed flame essence, and was incomparably beautiful as it glimmered with a translucent sheen. Around the heretical god seed, a faint electric spark appeared. In the midst of the dim electric spark, there seemed to be a thin purple snake made from lightning flittering about as it traveled around the heretical god seed. From time to time, it would circle around the flame essence, playing with it, as if it had some deep spiritual intelligence. Thunder Soul. The power of thunder and lightning inside of the magnetic chamber had finally condensed into a Thunder Soul. Lin Ming was extremely joyful. A thunder soul was much more precious than flame essence. There were only a few martial artists who had a thunder attribute. Moreover, inside of the heretical godseed, the thunder soul had unlimited possibilities for growth. The magnetic dark steel chamber contained the power of lightning and thunder. However, this power was only the most ordinary and natural of thunder forces which came from a thundercloud. It was only able to create a thunder soul, it could not help one grow. Looking at the small snake-like spark in the electric light, Lin Ming had a deep sense of achievement that soaked through him. Flame essence. Thunder soul. The heretical godseed was truly marvelous. If the flame essence and thunder soul continued evolving, what other changes would occur inside of the heretical godseed? At this moment, outside of the magnetic dark steel chamber, the Thunder Valley Deacon was anxiously watching the hourglass with a very scared and bewildered expression. Did I make a mistake? 2 hours. The Thunder Valley Deacon was unable to believe such an unthinkable fact. Even a peak pulse condensation period martial artist would not be able to last inside for so long. Chapter 160 The Power of Thunder and Fire. Chapter 160 The Power of Thunder and Fire. Chapter 160 The Power of Thunder and Fire. The Thunder Valley Deacon was unable to believe such an unthinkable fact. Even a peak pulse condensation period martial artist would not be able to last inside for so long. Lin Ming truly was a frighteningly fierce individual. However, there had to be a limit. You had just entered the altering muscle stage and yet you can already favorably compare to a peak pulse condensation period martial artist, or even reach a Hutian realm martial artist. Isn't this just a bit too ridiculous? The deacon had been waiting for Lin Ming to realize that the difficulty was too hard and then to leave the magnetic chamber. But now the moon had already come out, and yet there still wasn't any disturbance in the magnetic chamber. The deacon even went knocking on the door at regular intervals to ask if Lin Ming was all right. He really suspected that Lin Ming had been shocked silly inside and was in urgent need of care. Then after a while, when the sand in the hourglass had cleanly leaked through to the bottom, he had to flip the hourglass over again. What the hell? This is just too preposterous. Did the force of thunder inside the magnetic chamber leak out? The deacon kept imagining different scenarios of what could have occurred, but at this moment, the door to the magnetic chamber was pushed open, and Lin Ming hopped out, a cheerful smile plastered on his face. After he had successfully cultivated the Thunder Soul, he was in a very excellent mood. Seeing Lin Ming come out, the Thunder Valley Deacon stared at him with round eyes, looking Lin Ming up and down. Even his clothes had all been burnt off. The Thunder Valley Deacon gulped. What had this daring fellow done inside? He had actually stayed in the 12th level of difficulty for so long, yet he didn't seem perturbed or even the least bit concerned. Was this Lin Ming struck by thunder as a child, gaining some mystic ability, and thus did not fear lightning anymore? Junior apprentice brother Lin, are you all right? I'm great. Sorry for troubling you, senior apprentice brother. I will go back first. Yeah, you go back first. The deacon no longer knew what to say. After seeing Lin Ming out, the Thunder Valley Deacon immediately dashed into the magnetic chamber. He took a deep breath, revolved his true essence to its limit just in case he was hurt by the heavy hail of lightning, and then pulled open the door to the magnetic chamber. In a moment, his eyes had gone perfectly round. In the magnetic chamber, he only saw a few wisps of tiny electric currents running around, as if they were just barely able to maintain their existence. The other usual lightning snakes had already disappeared into thin air. The deacon rubbed his eyes, making sure he hadn't gone blind or daft. This wasn't right. Where was the thunder inside of the magnetic chamber? As he left the entrance to Thunder Valley, seeing no one around, Lin Ming was impatient and wanted to immediately try out the power of the Thunder Soul. Although the inherent nature of lightning was filled with a terrifying energy, it was only a fleeting moment, and couldn't last long. However, the Thunder Soul was actually an immortal spirit. It would never be extinguished. As long as he had enough true essence or heaven-earth yuan qi, then he could release an unlimited amount of lightning that would never weaken. The Thunder Soul was similar to the flame essence. It would only have an extremely low chance to be birthed in an area where thunder and lightning had existed for time immemorial. A Thunder Soul was scarcer than a flame essence. That was because in this world, Finding lands of thunder was much rarer than finding lands of flame. With a shake of his long spear, tiny wisps of violet lightning appeared on the silver-white spear shaft. It was really quite beautiful. If I trigger the flame true essence and the thunder true essence at the same time, while revolving the heretical god force so the power of true essence increases by 50%, what would happen? As Lin Ming thought this, he began to stimulate the thunder soul and the flame essence within the heretical god seed at the same time. Immediately, the highly compressed heretical god seed erupted like an active volcano. Flame on one hand, thunder on the other. The flame and thunder intersected. Each were as fierce as the other, and as violent as the other. The two kinds of energies began to circle and intertwine around each other. Coupling with the increased power from the heretical god force, the rising energy caused a turbulent vibration in the air, as if the atmosphere itself was being torn apart by these powerful energies. In that moment, Lin Ming felt as if he could not control these two energies. If it continued, then something dangerous would occur. As he was about to forcefully withdraw the true essence, a memory suddenly flashed in Lin Ming's mind. He suddenly recalled the principle of thunder and flame behind the thunderbolt devilfire bead. This idea gave him pause. If I let the two different energies in my hands follow the same concept as the devilfire thunderbolt bead, would it have the same might as the thunderbolt devilfire bead? To rashly test such a hypothesis was dangerous. Not only that, but he was barely in control of these two energies, and was already stretched to the limit of what he could handle. Still, Lin Ming could not suppress this intensely tempting thought in his heart. Flame becomes an eddy, thunder becomes a snake. Lin Ming recalled how the thunder and flame inside of the thunderbolt devilfire bead would revolve. As he did this, he also desperately urged all his true essence out, and revolved the wild flame and thunder according to this method. The heavy profound soft spear began to shine with light from an electric bolt that twisted around it. Snakes of fire wound around the shaft, and the crackling sounds of lightning and churning flames filled the air with a sound that was absolutely frightening. Lin Ming's face flushed red, and blue veins began to jut out from his forehead. Just as the potent power was about to break free of its shackles, Lin Ming let out a roar and fiercely thrust out the spear. The power of thunder and the power of flame interweaved into a ball of light that shot outwards with incredible speed, almost straight upwards at a 100-foot-high cliff. Bang! There were only the deafening sounds of loud explosions and countless rocks scattering in all directions, and dust filled the air. There was a rumbling sound that lingered, and then the 100-foot-high cliff collapsed in an avalanche of stone. Seeing this power, Lin Ming was stunned silly. What terrifying strength! This explosion could instantly kill an early pulse condensation period martial artist, or even a middle pulse condensation period martial artist. His cultivation was only at the early altering muscle stage, yet relying on the power of the heretical god seed, he could actually produce such a horrifying killing move. This heretical god force secret technique simply went against the will of the heavens. Lin Ming had thought that the chaotic virtues combat meridians which he cultivated was already heaven-defying. After all, contained inside were the true primal chaos formula, flow like silk, the tempering marrow realm, 8 inner hidden gates, 9 stars of the Tao Palace, and all sorts of other strange and miraculous cultivation methods. He had only cultivated it a bit, and yet he was able to cross a whole stage and a half to fight with enemies at the peak bone forging stage. But now, when he compared that to the heretical god force, Lin Ming felt that the chaotic virtues combat meridians was just some commonplace cultivation technique. It seems so. After all, while the chaotic virtues combat meridians is a top-tier body transformation cultivation method manual within the realm of the gods, this cultivation method manual cannot be considered a forbidden technique that cannot be passed down. There must be many people who are familiar with the chaotic virtues combat meridians. For instance, in the sect of the mighty elder who had learnt the chaotic virtues combat meridians, as long as you were a core disciple at the sect, you would be able to study this cultivation method. But this heretical god force is actually unique within the entire realm of the gods. That second mighty elder who died had only discovered this secret technique within an ancient ruin in the realm of the gods. It has a very high possibility that it was left behind by an ancient evil god. It is not a cultivation method or martial skill or movement ability. It can only be called a mystical secret technique. Such an amazing ability is naturally not something that the chaotic virtues combat meridians can compare with. With this martial skill that I created by accident and with luck, although I can guarantee it can kill an early pulse condensation period opponent, the consumption of energy is simply too large. The true essence within me has lowered by 40 or 50%. It's impossible to use this ability in succession. As Lin Ming was lost in his thoughts, the Thunder Valley deacon frantically ran out of the entrance. He had been standing in a daze inside that last magnetic chamber looking at the few small electric snakes that were remaining. Then he had heard a tremendously loud explosion that had scared him awake. He had thought that the array formation had exploded. As he was running out of the entranceway, he happened to see Lin Ming in front of all the falling debris, looking a bit confused. This was originally a 100-foot-high cliff. The deacon had already protected Thunder Valley for many years. He was now well acquainted with the terrain around Thunder Valley. He could only look at Lin Ming incredulously. Could it be that this 100-foot-high cliff was collapsed by Lin Ming? He glimpsed the heavy, profound, soft spear that Lin Ming was casually holding in his hands. There was a faint flash of true essence on the spear point. Did he just make a move with his spear a moment ago that caused a 100-foot cliff to collapse? Heavens! The Thunder Valley deacon already thought that his timid heart had experienced enough excitement for today. This was just too terrifying. If he experienced a third shock, then he just might have a heart attack. The rocks of the cliff had magnetic dark steel mixed in it. Who knows how many times harder it was than ordinary rock? How could this be possible? Junior apprentice brother Lin, what is all this? What happened here? Lin Ming slowly shrugged and said, I'm sorry, I was not careful and the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead that I was examining exploded. Lin Ming had used the power of thunder and flame to release this move. Moreover, the concept behind this skill was the same as the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead. Perhaps even the man who created the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead would have difficulty discerning the difference between the effects of the bead and Lin Ming's new ability. Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead. The Thunder Valley deacon was surprised for a moment, and then he remembered what had happened recently. After Zhong Guanyu had been crippled by Lin Ming, news of the event had spread throughout the entire Sky Fortunate City. At that time, when Zhong Guanyu was dueling Lin Ming, he found that his own strength was inferior, and he was already in a situation where he was defeated. Because of this, he tried to ambush Lin Ming with the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead, so Lin Ming had wasted him in response. So that's what happened, the Thunder Valley deacon exhaled, so this explosion was caused by the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead. If Lin Ming had thrown it, then it would have collapsed the cliff. However, this Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead was simply too perverse. If a 100-foot-high cliff could explode and end up looking like this, what would happen if it was thrown at a person? Would that person explode too? Thinking this, the Thunder Valley deacon recalled the magnetic chamber and the thunder inside that had disappeared. His curiosity was piqued again, but Lin Ming had already made the first step and said, Senior apprentice brother, it's getting late, I should head back first. Thunder Valley should shut down about now. If there's a chance, we will meet again. Lin Ming didn't wait for the Thunder Valley deacon to respond, he had already started moving after he finished his sentence. Since he had comprehended the concept of wind, Lin Ming's speed was extremely swift. Oh, junior apprentice brother Lin, hang on, about the matter of the thunder inside the magnetic chamber. The Thunder Valley deacon's words trailed off halfway. Lin Ming had already disappeared beyond sight. This left him speechless. He had wanted to understand just what had happened inside that magnetic chamber in Thunder Valley. Fortunately, there was always thunder and lightning in Thunder Valley throughout the entire year. It just so happened that there had also been a thunderstorm that evening, and Lin Ming had managed to absorb almost half of the thunder energy from there. Since the Thunder Valley deacon could not find a reasonable explanation, he dropped the matter. But by the second day, the news of the explosion that occurred outside of Thunder Valley had already been passed on to Ouyang Dihua. Your luck is quite good. The explosion from the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead actually didn't kill you. However, you have now used up the Thunderbolt Devil Fire bead. What else can you do to resist? Now when I kill you, it will be as easy as slaughtering a dog or chicken. Ouyang de Hua had already contacted the disciple of the refiner faction who had been expelled from the 7 profound valleys for violating sect rules. To Ouyang de Hua's delight, that disciple had already taken a half step into the Hutian realm, and had now surpassed even himself in strength. It would be a breeze for a martial artist a half step into the Hutian realm to deal with Lin Ming, who was only at the early altering muscle stage. Lin Ming, your death has already been decided. Chapter 161 Swallowing the Bloodlingji. Chapter 161 Swallowing the Bloodlingji. Chapter 161 Swallowing the Bloodlingji. For several days, Lin Ming had been carefully researching and studying the heretical god force and had purified the true essence within his body. Although his cultivation hadn't risen by much, his total strength had actually experienced a dramatic climb. Before, Lin Ming had been lacking a true martial skill. Although his true essence was amazingly thick and he also had ghostly speed, his attack power was less than ideal. But now that he had inadvertently stumbled upon a method to fuse together the power of thunder and fire from borrowing the concepts behind the Thunderbolt Devil Fire Bead, he had created his own unique martial skill. Lin Ming named this move of his, Thunderfire Annihilation. The power of Thunderfire Annihilation is no less than that of the Thunderbolt Devil Fire Bead. Now, as long as I don't face a peak pulse condensation period master, I have faith that I will be able to put up a worthwhile struggle. However, it wouldn't be good if this move were known to others. No one would believe that this ability was something I created myself. If I'm not being pressured to the edge of death, then I shouldn't use this move so easily. Although Thunder Annihilation had an overwhelming offensive power, just using it once would consume 40 to 50% of the true essence within his body. The consumption of resources was simply too great. If he used it, he would have to be able to guarantee that the strike would kill the enemy in one move, otherwise he would be in an extremely critical situation. As Lin Ming was planning on how to best utilize this new ability of his, a sound-transmitting talisman lit in front of him. As the purple-red flames flashed and dissipated, Lin Ming was surprised to hear the voice. It was Qin Zia, the 7 profound martial house master. The message of the sound-transmitting talisman was very simple. He wanted to see Lin Ming at the Sword Bamboo Grove in the back mountains. Lin Ming put away the heavy profound soft spear, and immediately trekked to the Sword Bamboo Grove. It was already nightfall. The dim night sky was like an iridescent curtain that fell over the world. Stars sparkled in the sky, and in the Sword Bamboo Grove, there was a chilling wind that rustled the fallen leaves. As Lin Ming arrived at the edge of the Sword Bamboo Grove, he saw Qin Zia standing there, carrying a long zither. He was standing straight, and his long beard and blue robe danced in the bustling wind. He had an extraordinary and timeless demeanor. Martial House Master. Lin Ming respectfully bowed. Millimeter. I called you here today because there are a few matters. Qin Zia slowly turned. His voice had the same strangely calming quality that it had before, and was very comfortable to listen to. He flicked his fingers, and a golden light fell into Lin Ming's hands. Lin Ming received the golden token and glanced over it. 2 words were written on it, 7 profound. Could this be a 7 profound decree? Lin Ming remembered that when Elder Wang had passed down the 7 profound decree to him, he had also held a token similar to this in his hand. Qin Zia said, I'm very satisfied with your current ability. You shall take this 7 profound decree and head to Seraphic Pond Mountain within Hualuo Nation. There is a pool of holy water there that is called the Seraphic Pond. The Seraphic Pond contains an extremely pure true essence. It is very beneficial to anyone under the Hutian realm. As long as you can find it, it will help you break through to the pulse condensation period. However, the power of true essence within the Seraphic Pond is limited. Only 3 or 4 people can use it every year. I had a very hard time getting this opportunity for you. You should cherish it and strive towards greater realms of cultivation. After some time, the main sect will send down some people to conduct a tournament between the 7 profound martial house of Sky Fortune Kingdom and the several surrounding countries. When that time comes, I want you to enter into that tournament and fight for a little face for my Sky Fortune Kingdom's martial house. Seraphic Pond Mountain? As Lin Ming heard this, he was instantly attentive. He already had some knowledge about Hualuo Nation's Seraphic Pond. Seraphic Pond Mountain was a rare holy spiritual ground, and the summit where the Seraphic Pond was located was the center of all the spiritual essence there. Who knew how many people were aiming for this holy water every year? Hualuo Nation was much larger than Sky Fortune Kingdom, and they also had many more martial artists. If there was a limit of 3 or 4 people that could go to Seraphic Pond Mountain, then how could he have possibly been selected? Hualuo Nation's 7 profound martial house would undoubtedly be very unwilling to surrender such a precious cultivation resource to the Sky Fortune Kingdom. What sort of method had the martial house master used to obtain a spot for him? Lin Ming bowed with some thanks, and silently thought in his heart that this Qin Zia was neither his relative or close friend. Wasn't this kindness just a little bit too over the top? Was this interfaction grand tournament of the 7 profound martial houses really so important to Qin Zia? Qin Zia also said, "Before you leave, go to the martial house registration office and register, then you will be leaving for 2 months to adventure. Make sure to keep where you are going and what you are doing confidential. Right now you have many enemies. The 7 profound martial house can be considered a safe zone, but once you leave the 7 profound martial house, you will be in danger. So do not mention to anyone that you are going to the Seraphic Pond. Also don't tell anyone that you saw me tonight. I will send a master to protect you along the way, so make sure that you maintain a low-key presence and don't stir up any trouble." This disciple understands. Lin Ming respectfully said. If a disciple of the 7 profound martial house had to leave for a long period of time for things such as completing a mission or going out on an adventure to experience the world, they needed to register at the martial house's registration office. Otherwise, if a disciple disappeared for too long without an explanation, then the 7 profound martial house would investigate. All of this was to ensure the safety of the martial house's disciples. In 3 days go to Travel Peak, there will be someone waiting for you. Remember, keep your location a secret. Qin Zia said this, and then drifted away. Yes, this disciple will remember. Lin Ming bowed. Looking at it, Qin Zia had done him a very great favor today. However, Lin Ming felt that there was something off about the situation, but he wasn't able to place his finger on just what was wrong. After I get to the Hualuo Nation's Seraphic Pond Mountain, will they really give me a spot just with this 7 profound token? Would they really so kindly and obediently give out a position to others? Could there be some troubles later? Thinking this, Lin Ming returned to his cabin. As Lin Ming sat down in bed and watched the token in his hands, he couldn't seem to forget this strange lingering feeling in his heart, as if something was off about what happened tonight. Martial House Master Qin promised me the treasure and medicines of the heavy profound soft spear, 500-year-old blood lingji, blue miracle pill, and body spiritual ichor. Just this alone already shows how much concern he has towards me and what he believes my worth is. Now, he also gave me the opportunity to obtain true essence holy water from the Seraphic Pond. However, this Seraphic Pond is a resource that belongs to Hualuo Nation. If the martial house master wanted to obtain this opportunity, he must have paid a correspondingly high price. The martial house master is not my relative, so why is he looking after me so well? Is it just because he values my future accomplishments? This explanation also seems a bit far-fetched. Lin Ming frowned. Qin Zia's generosity towards him was just too much. He was very flattered, but at the same time he was unable to suppress suspicions that had been aroused. When I leave the premises of the 7 profound martial house, I will certainly experience danger at some point. No matter what, I must be as careful as possible and keep my whereabouts a secret, so that they don't leak out and I find someone chasing after my shadow to assassinate me. I'll have to take these 3 days to enhance my strength as much as I can. With strength, I will have some confidence that I can protect myself. Thinking this, Lin Ming pulled out the 500-year-old blood lingji from his spatial ring. The impurities in his body's true essence had already been tempered and melted away. The side effects from the 2 top-tier pills that he had eaten before had been completely cleared. Now it was time to take this 500-year-old blood lingji. A 500-year-old lingji was able to supplement the blood vitality of a martial artist and increase their strength and martial arts cultivation. Lin Ming swallowed the blood lingji. An ordinary lingji would taste like cork, and would also take a long time to chew. However, the 500-year-old blood lingji in his mouth was like fine meat. It was creamy, moist, and slid smoothly down his throat. As he swallowed it into his stomach, Lin Ming felt a vigorous and exuberant swell of blood energy from his stomach spread out through his meridian lines and throughout his limbs. A massive amount of vigorous and energetic blood flowed up, and Lin Ming felt dizzy. This kind of dizzy feeling was just as if he had stayed in a steam room for too long. Inside, the blood would rush to the surface and it would cause one's mind to be dizzy. This situation was somewhat similar to that. Along with the continuous influx of vigorous blood energy, Lin Ming felt the dizziness expand as if his brain was blowing up. His face reddened and his mouth spat out hot steam. His body began to give off an intense heat, and his skin was becoming more and more red. It looked as if he was oozing blood from 1,000 tiny injuries. This was because the vigorous blood inside of him was simply too strong, and it had begun seeping out from all the tiny blood vessels in his body, which finally led to this phenomenon. Lin Ming began to sweat all over, and even his sweat was tinted red with the overflow of blood. Seeing this, Lin Ming immediately closed all the pores of his body to prevent blood from spilling out. The blood that was flowing out contained the power of the blood lingji. It would be too pitiful for any to go to waste. Although Lin Ming was bleeding all over, he did not feel any pain, he only felt a slight dizziness. In comparison to the blood lingji, the crimson gold dragon marrow pill and the golden snake scarlet pill were extremely dangerous and potent medicines. While these two medicines were extremely hot and extremely cold, this was because they were used to directly wash the muscles and purify marrow. The blood lingji had much milder side effects, as it was only used to supplement the blood vitality. Lin Ming began to revolve the true primal chaos formula, and like this, he sat in meditation for 5 hours until the sun was bright in the sky. The red blush that covered his body had already begun to slowly recede. Lin Ming had absorbed about 70 or 80% of the blood lingji's blood vitality. As Lin Ming revolved his true essence, he discovered that there was a great deficit of true essence within his body. This deficit wasn't because his true essence had been consumed. Rather, it was because Lin Ming's body had become more powerful, so he was able to accommodate more true essence. If true essence was compared to water, then the body would be the reservoir that was able to hold the water. From strength training to flesh training to viscera training to altering muscle to bone forging and finally to pulse condensation, as one cultivated to each stage, the reservoir would expand and deepen, thus the amount of true essence once could hold was more. But now, although Lin Ming's current cultivation hadn't risen, the blood vitality in his body was like a robustly burning stove. Because of this, the reservoir in his body was much more broad and deep than those at the same level of cultivation, and so the amount of true essence that he could hold was also more compared to others. Not only that, but because of the exuberant energy in his blood, his vitality was also stronger. His endurance was greater, and his physical strength also increased. Although Lin Ming's cultivation hadn't yet risen, his strength had just grown by a great deal. There are only 2 days before I must set off. With so little time, it's not realistic to want to have a great enhancement in my strength, unless I can complete the inscription symbol for my heavy profound soft spear. The reason that Lin Ming hadn't yet placed an inscription symbol on the heavy profound soft spear from the time he had received it until now was because he had been busy constantly cultivating, and also because the materials were difficult to find. A few days ago I sent out a bulletin from the Inscription Association. I wonder how many of the materials have been collected so far. Lin Ming had only just put out the announcement that he was trading his personal inscription symbols for materials. Since it had only been a few days, he had no hope in expecting that they would be gathered so quickly. However, he hadn't expected that during the afternoon of that same day, Wang Yuhan would send him a sound-transmitting talisman informing him that the materials he wanted were ready, and Lin Ming could come take them whenever he wanted to. This caused Lin Ming to be very surprised. As he arrived at the Inscription Association, Wang Yuhan had already organized all the materials and placed them in a case. On the side of the case was a note that had a list of names detailing where all the materials had come from. About 20% of the materials were sent by customers. They had delivered the materials in return for an inscription symbol. As for the other materials, about 40% was sent by the Crown Prince's messenger, and the last 40% were prepared by Jingyun. Sky Fortune Cities by Jingyun. Lin Ming was even more surprised than before. The materials needed to create their astral symbol were not as rare or expensive as the ones needed to draw up the body inscription symbol. However, to collect so many materials in such a short time, one would have to spend a great deal of money, and also call in many favors and connections. Chapter 162, Trap. Chapter 162, Trap. Lin Ming asked Wang Yuhan, "Did Senior Apprentice Sister Bai leave any message when she stopped by to deliver the materials? For instance, did she ask me to create an inscription symbol for her or something like that?" Wang Yuhan said, "Jingyun didn't say anything. She just left the materials here then departed." "Oh, do you have Bai Jingyun's sound transmission information? I would like to use a sound transmitting talisman to ask her." Wang Yuhan said, "Yes, but Jingyun recently left Sky Fortune City. She's already put in a request for a 5-month leave of absence from the 7 Profound Martial House. I don't think that she'll be back anytime soon." A sound transmitting talisman had a limit to the distance that it could reach. If it was a very long distance, there had to be a pre-planned relay system set up ahead of time, and multiple sound transmitting talismans had to be used in series. Leave of absence. Lin Ming thought this was quite peculiar. The time one had to practice at the 7 Profound Martial House was very valuable. What sort of reason would there be for Bai Jingyun to request a 5-month leave of absence? Lin Ming was not accustomed to owing a debt to others. As for the Crown Prince's help, it was fine since he was helping him in the struggle for the throne. But why would Bai Jingyun collect these materials, and then leave for a long journey without leaving a note? It really was confusing. "Then, if Senior Apprentice Sister comes back, I'll trouble you to inform me." "All right. So, Miss Wang, if I could ask you to help me prepare an inscription room. I would like to draw up the customer's inscription symbols first." "Millimeter. Okay." 2 days later, in the middle of the night. Outside of Sky Fortune City in a shaded area of the woods, Lin Ming was wearing all black clothes as he rode on the back of a large grey eagle. This was a top-quality mount that a common person would usually never see in their lives, a heavenly wind eagle. The heavenly wind eagle had a wingspan of 40 feet, and it could fly a huge distance of 8,000 miles every day. It was a 3rd-level vicious beast, and it was only tameable by those martial artists in sects that were proficient in beast mastery. This kind of eagle mount had a value of at least 200,000 taels of gold, and it wasn't something that money could easily buy. Tonight, he would ride this heavenly wind eagle and go towards the Hualuo Nation's Seraphic Pond Mountain. Lin Ming had already finished drawing the astral inscription symbol, and the drawing process had proceeded very smoothly, without any problems. After completion, the range of true essence within the heavy profound soft spear had increased by 50%. The skill of inscription astral spear had also been successfully attached. As soon as he willed it, true essence would condense into a part of the spear, and theoretically, as long as a martial artist's true essence was powerful enough, the spear could extend to an infinite distance. With Lin Ming's current strength, in a situation where he was in a battle, he was able to extend the heavy profound soft spear by a little more than 100 or so feet. At this moment, by Lin Ming's side, there was also a martial artist that looked to be around 30 years old. He was wearing very flashy clothing, and carried a heavy sword on his back. There was a long scar from a knife wound that curved down his face in the shape of a snake. This person's cultivation was at the peak pulse condensation period. He might even have taken a half step into the Hutian realm. He was also riding a heavenly wind eagle. This was the martial artist that Qin Zia had sent to protect him 3 days ago. After Lin Ming had arrived at Travel Peak at the agreed time, he had already been waiting there for him. When Lin Ming saw this person, he was stunned. Qin Zia's disciple was actually a martial artist that was a half step into the Hutian realm. And not only that, but this person had very pure true essence, and an extremely powerful aura. His strength was probably higher than a martial artist at the same level of cultivation. With this person here, the Allied Trade Association would definitely not dare to do anything. "Hello, senior apprentice brother," Lin Ming greeted. "Millimeter." The man replied with a lukewarm tone. "Are you prepared? We are leaving tonight." "Yes." Lin Ming had wanted to ask for the senior apprentice brother's name and gain some understanding into the reason he was going to Hualuo Nation, but felt that this man didn't want to speak anymore, so he reluctantly dropped the topic. The man let out a strange whistling sound, and suddenly, 2 heavenly wind eagles heard that whistling and soared down. The heavenly wind eagles flew down faster and faster, and Li Ming could only hear the howl of wind in his ears as the incoming turbulent air current sent his clothes fluttering about. Lin Ming used his true essence to condense a wind shield in front of himself to block the intense winds. His eyes stared at the back of the pulse condensation period martial artist in front of him, and he fell back into rumination. This was an absolutely unwise time to leave the 7 profound martial house. If he was able to keep his whereabouts completely hidden, then it would be fairly safe. However, if there was even the slightest leak as to where he was, then the situation might become a bit dangerous. Martial House Master Qin has credibility. He shouldn't be trying to harm me, but I should still be careful. But even if I say that, if Martial House Master Qin wanted me dead, then I wouldn't be alive today either. The first time that Lin Ming had met Qin Zia, he had felt a faint aura of righteousness from him. In general, those gentlemen that were accomplished in the fine arts were usually never hypocritical or malicious, otherwise it would be profoundly difficulty to have any attainments in the fine arts. The 2 heavenly wind eagles flew for 1 day and 1 night. After a brief 2-hour period of rest, they then departed again for another 8,000 miles. This surrounding landscape became gradually more desolate the further south they went. This was south of Sky Fortune Kingdom, and it was close to the Great Southern Wilderness. Lin Ming found that the heavenly wind eagles didn't directly fly to Hualuo Nation. Instead, they took a detour. Even with the amazing speed of the heavenly wind eagles, this detour would still take half a day. Is this because of safety concerns? Lin Ming began to doubt in his mind. Relatively speaking, it was very safe to ride a heavenly wind eagle. A heavenly wind eagle flew at an altitude of thousands of feet, and it was difficult for someone who wanted to kill him to intercept him at such a height. It would be really easy for a murderer to dump a corpse here. Lin Ming's heart began to have a faint sense of foreboding, and he secretly went on alert. His mind linked to the heretical godseed, feeling the terrifying compressed power of thunder and fire within, and felt slightly more at peace. At this moment, Lin Ming, who had been highly focused the entire time, suddenly felt ice cold. He felt that the pulse condensation period martial artist in front of him was emitting a faint murderous intent. And this murderous intent was directed at him. This caused all of Lin Ming's 4 limbs to immediately become cold. This was a martial artist who was a half-step into the Hutian realm. He was someone that not even Thunderfire Annihilation would be able to match up against. At this time in a valley at Ju Mountain, it was night, and the shaded trees lent an eerily dark feeling to the valley. "Is it done?" The voice abruptly sounded. The one who spoke was Ouyang Dehua. It was only a trivial matter. "Huagong should begin any time now," the feminine voice of Bai Luo said as he slowly emerged from the woods. Huagong was Ouyang Dehua's junior apprentice brother. He was a disciple of the refining faction but had been expelled from the 7 profound valleys. He was the martial artist riding the heavenly wind eagle alongside Lin Ming that was a half-step into the Hutian realm. Ouyang Dehua cruelly smiled and said, "Senior apprentice brother's illusions are truly superb. I'm afraid that not even Qin Zia would be able to see through them." Bai Luo was from the Mirage faction of the 7 profound valleys, and what he was best at were illusions, particularly disguises. Not only he could transfigure appearances, but he could also mimic voices and personalities. It was to a level that not even a peak Hutian realm master would be able to see through them. 3 days ago, Bai Luo had transformed into Qin Zia, and had ordered Lin Ming to leave the 7 profound martial house. He used to not to be able to see through my illusions, but these years Qin Zia had been roaming the world and his zither heart has already reached the point where it is like a mirror, the stage where his heart is spotless and resolute. His cultivation is also a half-step into the Xiantian realm. It shouldn't be difficult for him to see through my illusions. Fortunately, that eyesore Qin Zia left the 7 profound martial house after the grand banquet had ended. He will continue to roam around and polish his zither heart, so there won't be any problems since he won't be coming back anytime soon. Millimeter. As long as Qin Zia isn't here and we can make Lin Ming leave the 7 profound martial house, killing him would be as easy as killing a chicken. Huagong wasn't needed to begin with. As long as Lin Ming falls down from the heavenly wind eagle, he will meet a violent, crushing death. Let alone a mere little boy at the altering muscle stage, even a Hutian master would be finish. Ouyang Dihua diabolically grinned as he said this. If he tried to move against Lin Ming in the 7 profound martial house, then it would alarm many people. Even if he could successfully kill him, after he died there would most likely be several traces of evidence that one could use to trace back to the murderer. However, if Lin Ming was to leave the 7 profound martial house and even leave Sky Fortune City, and then if he was to disappear, most others would chalk it up to him dying while on an adventure somewhere. This way, even if the 7 profound martial house wanted to investigate the situation, they would have no idea where to even begin. The Great Southern Wilderness is a land of endless vicious beasts and poisonous insects. Once he plunges to his death, there won't even be dust left over from his bones once the vicious beasts are done tearing through him. That is truly the best place to kill a man and destroy his corpse without leaving any evidence. Ouyang Dihua greedily licked his lips, and impatiently waited in anticipation of the good news that Huagong would send to him. Southern Wilderness. As he rode on the heavenly wind eagle, Lin Ming heard the snake-scarred martial artist let out a sharp whistle. Suddenly, when the heavenly wind eagle under Lin Ming heard this whistle, it rolled over mid-flight, trying to make Lin Ming fall off its back. Beast. Lin Ming held onto the eagle's feathers. Taking advantage of his strength, he took a firm grip with one hand on the eagle's body, and with a flick of his wrist, the 1200 Jin heavy profound soft spear had already jumped into his hands. Although the heavenly wind eagle was very strong in flight, how could it maintain flight with a 1200 Jin weight on its back? As Lin Ming tightly gripped onto the eagle's back muscles and pulled out his spear, the heavenly wind eagle immediately let out a whining call of pain and desperately flapped its wings. Even so, the heavenly wind eagle immediately plunged downwards in a straight vertical drop before catching itself. Hihi, sorry young boy. I have had no past injustice with you and no present grudge. I'm only doing this because someone offered me some benefits, and they wanted you to completely disappear. I'm sorry, but don't blame me. Huagong stood on the back of the heavenly wind eagle and grinned heartlessly. The snake-like scar wound on his face looked especially ferocious as he laughed. Who asked you to kill me? Qin Zia? As Lin Ming asked this, he immediately rejected it. No, something was strange, but he didn't know just what was strange. Haha, you think that it's Qin Zia? Think as you like, I have no interest in meaninglessly chit-chatting with you. I will let you be a confused ghost as well. You think that it's Qin Zia? These words resounded in Lin Ming's heart, and made him go cold. At this point, he didn't have any time to reflect on this. There was another strange whistling sound that was sent from Huagong, and the man sat down on the heavenly wind eagle as he turned around and flew at Lin Ming to kill him. Have a peaceful journey to hell. Huagong took out a strangely shaped long saber from his back, and sent that long saber careening towards Lin Ming's back to behead him. Clang! Lin Ming lifted his spear to resist Huagong's strike with everything he had. However, the strength of a martial artist at the peak pulse condensation period was simply too formidable. As they exchanged a blow, Lin Ming only felt a strong force transmit through his body as he was sent flying backwards. With a cough, Lin Ming tore off a hunk of flesh from the heavenly wind eagle's back as he was sent soaring backwards by the strength of the blow. The heavenly wind eagle issued a pitifully keening cry. From an altitude of thousands of feet in the air, Lin Ming plummeted downward. Chapter 162, Trap. Chapter 163, The Moment of Life and Death. Chapter 163, The Moment of Life and Death. Seeing this, Huagong grinned maniacally. If one's cultivation wasn't at the Xiantian realm, then they wouldn't be able to fly. Let alone Lin Ming, Even a peak Hutian realm master would die a horrible death if they fell from an altitude of thousands of feet. This murder was just too easy. Although he had already determined that Lin Ming would die, Huagong still rode the heavenly wind eagle to chase him down. Firstly, he had to receive proof of Lin Ming's death, and secondly he would take his possessions. Lin Ming had a spatial ring and the heavy profound soft spear on his body. How could he miss such a great fortune? The speed at which Lin Ming was falling from the sky kept increasing. In a blink of an eye, Lin Ming had already fallen several dozens of feet. As he frenziedly descended downwards, Lin Ming locked onto Huagong with his soul force. At this moment, he was filled with an incomparable calmness. Against a martial arts master who was a half-step into the Hutian realm, even his Thunderfire annihilation would be useless to defeat him. There would only be one chance to turn this defeat into victory. This would be a mid-air battle with his life on the line. If you want to kill me, then I'll drag you down with me. Lin Ming gripped the base of the heavy profound soft spear. The 9-foot-long spear began to emit a cold brightness on its spear point. Its murderous intent was overflowing. The crazily fluttering wind blew against him. Lin Ming began to fiercely revolve his true essence, and he brought forth a maddening amount. Concept of wind, golden rock shattering the void. Lin Ming spread his arms wide. It was like an invisible and gentle force had been born underneath him, cradling Lin Ming in its grasp. His falling speed began to slow down. When Lin Minute had first comprehended the concept of wind within the violent wind tunnel, it was possible for him to let his body pause in the air for a moment. Now as he sailed amidst the wind and his strength had sharply risen, he was even more like a fish in water. Lin Ming clenched his teeth and his body suddenly rose up, flying directly towards Huagong. Huagong experienced a frightening shock as he rode the heavenly wind eagle. He had never even imagined that Lin Ming could use his own power to stay in the air. How was this possible? Even if it was Ouyang Dihua who had personally tasted the speed of Lin Ming's movements, he wouldn't have thought this was possible. Lin Ming's skill at movement had already reached the point of sailing in the wind. In the minds of most, only a Xiantian realm martial artist with incomparably thick true essence could fly. This was common sense. Has this boy reached the Xiantian realm? As soon as this thought flashed in Huagong's mind, he instantly rejected it. It was impossible. As Huagong remained dumbfounded by what was happening, Lin Ming had already rushed 100 feet towards him. He gripped the heavy profound soft spear with both arms, and his body's complete momentum came roaring out. Flood Dragon goes to sea. His spear shot out perpendicular to his arm. The keenly sharp true essence whistled as it tore through the air. The silver-white spear point was just like a blazing silver meteor that was rushing out. Huagong suddenly recovered his composure. He pulled out his long saber and gave a fierce shout. His saber slashed out at Lin Ming's heavy profound soft spear. But at this moment, Lin Ming's hand that was holding the spear lowered, and the spear point thrust past the saber and straight into the heavenly wind eagle. This is bad. Huagong was taken aback. This was truly a rude awakening. Lin Ming's target was not him, but his mount. If he didn't have his mount, he would fall almost 1,000 feet and hit the ground before shattering into pieces. Just die. Huagong angrily shouted and his saber cut out at Lin Ming. The saber had been kindled with a pyroclastic flame. If Lin Ming kept stabbing out, then his flame essence would absolutely severely injure or even kill Lin Ming. This was a fighting style that placed one's life on the line. Let's just see who is more willing to die. At this moment, Lin Ming's body flew backward. Huagong's saber only cut air, but he was forced to draw back due to Lin Ming's attack. As long as the heavenly wind eagle was unharmed and they both reached the ground, then he would hold an overwhelming advantage. But at this moment, another unthinkable scene took place. Although Lin Ming had retreated, the heavy profound soft spear in his hands suddenly stretched out. This was the skill of inscription, astral spear. The several dozen feet long astral spear was like a snow-colored bolt of lightning that shot out. The supplementary skill of inscription of the astral inscription symbol was the astral spear. This ability was able to condense true essence into a part of the spear itself. As long as one's true essence was powerful enough, the spear could infinitely extended. Puff! The astral spear pierced through the heavenly wind eagle's body with no resistance. and cut through its heart and lungs. Screech! The heavenly winged eagle issued a wailing scream, and its body suddenly lost balance as it tumbled downwards. True essence manifestation, flow like silk. Lin Ming did not give Huagong even the slightest chance to retaliate. The heavy profound soft spear in his hands began to violently shake, and vibrating true essence erupted from his spear as it began to realize into reality. More than 5,000 true essence filaments formed into 5,000 devilish flood dragons that broke into the heavenly wind eagle's body and tore apart all of its organ. Puff! The entire body of the heavenly wind eagle sprayed blood, and its entire body exploded in a sea of crimson as it died. You are courting death. Huagong's eyes turned red with rage. He jumped up using the broken body of the heavenly wind eagle, and with the rebounding strength, he let out a scream and called another heavenly wind eagle towards him. How could Lin Ming not see through his intentions? He retracted his arms, raised another mass of true essence, and while pointing his long spear straight out, he thrust it at the second heavenly wind eagle. Stop! Hualong cried out in increasing panic. If this heavenly wind eagle were to die, then he would be finished. Red Lotus Purgatory. Huagong gave a loud shout and his body erupted in a raging inferno. As he wielded his saber, the red lotus began to bloom and the sky darkened. It was as if this red lotus was swallowing all the light of the sun. When Lin Ming had fought Zhu Yang had overdrawn his true essence in that final moment in order to use this move. But compared to Huagong now, whether it was his aura or deadliness of the flames, Zhu Yang's move was far weaker in all aspect. Seeing the burning hot red lotus fly straight at him, Lin Ming unfolded his arms as if here were a golden rock himself. Both feet moved in a straight manner, and his body was like a kite that flew off to the side. This was an airborne step of golden rock shattering the void, imperial wind rock art. When Lin Ming had defeated Zhong Guanyu, he had combined the concept of wind with the foundation movement technique. Although he hadn't used any top-tier movement martial skill steps to win, that didn't mean that golden rock shattering the void did not have its own unique step. The red lotus purgatory slid past Lin Ming's body. However, the energy contained within Huagong's move was simply too excessive and formidable. Even though Lin Ming had evaded the red lotus purgatory, he still felt the searing wind that was carried from the red lotus purgatory. At that time, blood painfully surged within his body and his body was sent tumbling around. Huagong took this opportunity to swing a whip, and the whip entangled itself around the last heavenly wind eagle's claws. Like this, his speed of descent slowed down. As he tumbled around, Lin Ming saw this and felt anxious. He didn't have much time left. They were now only a few hundred feet from the ground. Lin Ming flicked his hand and the heavy profound soft spear was withdrawn back into the spatial ring. Now that he was 1,200 jins lighter, Lin Ming's body felt light like a swallow. He raised his true essence again. Lin Ming stepped on air and moved straight towards the heavenly wind eagle. F***CK off. Huagong gripped the whip, and with a tug of his strength, he swung up from it. His body flew up at an angle towards Lin Ming, and he chopped out with a sizzling saber to cut Lin Ming in half. Huagong was truly a martial artist who was a half-step into the Hutian realm. Even if he was restricted in the air, he could still attack Lin Ming. Clang! As Huagong struck out with his saber, it still contained an immensely powerful force to it. Lin Ming had already pulled out the heavy profound soft spear to block the attack. With Huagong's body upside down, the billowing hot fire true essence burnt off his beard and all his hair. Lin Ming flew backwards in the air again. He raised his true essence to push down the roiling blood within his chest. His eyes locked onto the heavenly wind eagle. This distance was already past the limit that the astral spear could reach. His attack range was too low. Lin Ming clenched his teeth and drew out another weapon from his spatial ring. This weapon was another long spear. This spear was 8 feet 8 inches long. The shaft was a dark purple and the tip was a deep red. This spear was one he hadn't used in a long time, penetrating rainbow. Die! Lin Ming bellowed. His strength of 8,000 jins erupted, and vibrating true essence rushed into the penetrating rainbow spear. He aimed at the heavenly wind eagle, and shot out his spear. Whiz! The penetrating rainbow spear shattered the ear, sending out a screeching howl as if a sharp knife were scratching against ice. Listening to the horrifying sound, one could imagine the terrifying strength behind that spear. At this point, Huagong had already used his saber, and his momentum had dried up. In the air, he simply had nowhere he could leverage. He could only helplessly watch as the spear was fired out dozens of feet towards the heavenly wind eagle. Although the heavenly wind eagle was a third-level vicious beast, Lin Ming's strength had recently arrived at an exceedingly potent level. Having just swallowed the 500-year-old blood Lingji, his vitality was like a burning stove. The penetrating rainbow spear that he threw out was nearly faster than the speed of sound. How could one possibly dodge it? Puff! The heavenly wind eagle was pierced like tofu by the penetrating rainbow spear. Blood spewed forth a dozen feet into the air. The speed of the penetrating rainbow didn't slow down. It passed through the heavenly wind eagle and kept soaring out into the sky. Ah! Huagong issued a furious scream of anger. He seized the whip and wanted to leverage it to cut towards Lin Ming again with his saber, but the heavenly wind eagle had already died. Huagong had no strength to initiate an attack. How could he catch Lin Ming, who had already comprehended the concept of wind? Huagong's saber uselessly cut air as he rapidly plummeted downwards. He was still 800 feet from the ground. Boy, I'll remember you. Huagong gave off an angry roar as he fell faster and faster. Lin Ming lifted his spear and pursued him. Although they were far from the ground, he didn't know if this height was enough to kill a man who was a half-step into the Hutian realm. Since it's like this, let me add to the fire. Lin Ming shook his heavy, profound, soft spear. Skill of inscription, astral spear. The 100-foot astral spear formed. Lin Ming raised his arms and mercilessly thrust towards Huagong. Pang! This level of attack could not injure Huagong. He lifted his saber to fend off the spear. However, the moment he fended off the attack, Huagong's body was like a ball which had been struck. His falling speed exploded. "RRR, I will tear you into a million pieces," Huagong called out in anger. Lin Ming simply ignored him. He crazily poured true essence into the heretical god seeds flame essence and thunder soul, brewing up and readying his own unique martial skill, Thunderbolt Annihilation. Take advantage of the moment, and take his life. He had already made up his mind. Even if Huagong were to die from this fall, he would not give a single inch of mercy. He would use his strongest move. This Huagong was probably not much weaker than an ordinary Hutian realm martial artist. Facing such a powerful enemy, Lin Ming didn't dare to hesitate at all. However, just as Huagong was about to hit the ground, Lin Ming's complexion changed. They were above a forest of the southern wilderness. In the moment that they fell into the forest, Huagong had flicked his whip and wrapped it around a branch of a thick tree. Damn it! Chapter 164 Red Lotus Demonic Inflammation. Chapter 164 Red Lotus Demonic Inflammation. Chapter 164 Red Lotus Demonic Inflammation. Lin Ming cursed. He hadn't thought that the forest terrain would ruin everything that he had planned. Catcher. Although Huagong had wrapped his whip around the branch of a tree, his falling speed was simply too fast. The branch broke under the strain of the pull and Huagong fell to the ground with a very loud explosion, creating a human-shaped hole in the ground. Huagong had been badly injured. His internal organs were crushed, and he had broken several ribs. Lin Ming's eyes flashed with a cruel light. He had been ready to run for his life, but now seeing that Huagong had been so miserably injured in the fall, he changed his mind. Destroy him while he's down, and eliminate the root before any more problems emerge. If he didn't, then Huagong would simply eat several top-quality pills and restore his true essence. Once that happened, he would still chase him down and murder him. Although Lin Ming had the advantage of being able to fly in the air, once his true essence was exhausted, he would inevitably fall down. If Huagong followed him on ground, he would catch up sooner or later. Die. Lin Ming clenched his teeth and put forth 120% of his strength. He dove down like a falcon from a height of several dozen feet in the air. He thrust his spear out in front of him. The thunder soul and flame essence within began to violently tremble, The calamitous forces of fire and thunder were like an unforgiving flow that were about to burst out. Heretical god force, open. The long spear aimed down, and the spearpoint was aimed straight. The horrifying sound of thunder and fire fusing began to echo in the air. The heavy, profound, soft spear was just like a meteor that was intertwining with thunder and fire, blazing down. At this moment, the severely wounded Huagong suddenly flipped up. Seeing Lin Ming's spear coming at him, his expression was incomparably ugly. Although his internal organs were crushed and his ribs were broken, he still had the true essence protection of a half-step Hutian realm master flowing through his innards, skeleton, and muscles. With this durable true essence protection, he was able to barely staunch the severe wounds. He had wanted to play dead as if he had been severely wounded to lure Lin Ming down, but hadn't expected that Lin Ming would be so decisive with his attack. Not only did he not investigate his wounds, but he had immediately used his finishing blow. Of course, to Huagong, who specialized in the art of fire, Lin Ming's so-called finishing blow that seemed to flow with some sort of flame simply looked like some second-rate skill. Humph, you are just some altering muscle stage junior and your cultivation is mediocre. You still dare to fight me with flame? Huagong sneered and his entire body combusted in a tornado of flames. Although he had truly been severely wounded, his cultivation was still a half-step into the Hutian realm. How could he fear a little junior at the altering muscle stage? Red Lotus demonic inflammation. Huagong gave a loud shout as a red lotus flower appeared out of thin air in front of him. Tongues of flame flowed along the flower petals like crimson snakes, pouring a massive amount of fire true essence into his saber until it turned a blazing red, as if it were about to melt. Poof! Just as he had used the Red Lotus demonic inflammation, Huagong spat out a mouthful of blood. With the severe wounds on his injured body, he was just barely able to support such a strong martial skill. Damn kid, he actually made me suffer such a heavy injury. I will kill him first before I find a place to heal myself. Thinking this, Huagong forcefully revolved his true essence, and wielded his saber. Above the saber, a vast swirl of rolling flames spread through the air. The land underneath his feet was instantly burned black, and a crimson heatwave spread out in all directions. In every place this heatwave touched, the vegetation would all wither and finally combust into fiery flames, turning into nothing but ash. Compared to the flames on Lin Ming's spear, whether it was horrifically scorching aura or the intensity of flames that spread out in a terrifying heatwave, the Red Lotus demonic inflammation was far superior. However, even facing the formidable Red Lotus demonic inflammation, the flames in Lin Ming's spear seemed to contain their own strange aura, as if it were boiling. Lin Ming was able to clearly feel the fluctuating flames and bursts of rolling heat transmitting from his heart. It was as if the flame essence was dancing in excitement. Ha! When the spear and saber crossed each other, the twin energies of thunder and fire suddenly interwove, thunder-fire annihilation. As the seemingly weak flame met the seemingly weak lightning, a dominant power suddenly erupted. For a time, it was as if all sound in the surroundings had been swallowed by some mystical force. The heavy, profound, soft spear was like a bolt of silver light that roared out, tearing through the atmosphere. The interweaving energies of thunder and fire coalesced into a mysterious ball of light that shot out from the spear, and directly clashed head-on against the Red Lotus demonic inflammation. Bang! There was an deafening explosion as if a raging bolt of thunder had struck. Raging true essence scattered in all directions like a tsunami of water crashing out from the epicenter of the explosion. Lin Ming was sent flying tumbling backwards like a rag doll. Even though Huagong was severely wounded, his move still had such power. As he tumbled back in the air, Lin Ming spat out a mouthful of blood. The heavy, profound, soft spear desperately swept out and mercilessly broke apart a large tree. Lin Ming gathered his strength after slowing his momentum, and firmly managed to hold his body straight. He looked up to see Huagong standing where he had been. The land around him had become a scorched, sunken pit. Huagong's entire body was slick with blood, and he was kneeling on the ground and supporting himself with his long saber. This caused Lin Ming's heart to contract. A martial artist that was a half-step into the Hutian realm was actually formidable to this degree. Huagong had been severely injured, and not only that, but Lin Ming had opened the heretical god force and also used thunderfire annihilation. Still, He had failed to kill him. Lin Ming had consumed too much true essence, so he did not continue his attack. Instead, he took out a pure true essence stone, and began to revolve the true primal chaos formula as he rapidly absorbed the true essence to restore his strength. But at this moment, Huagong suddenly grinned. Under his blackened lips, he revealed a row of glowing white teeth. To Lin Ming, that gruesome smile caused his heart to go cold. This fellow actually still had strength. You really gave me a pleasant surprise. Is this really a martial skill that an altering muscle stage martial artist can release? It seems that I was the one who was not familiar with how the world has already changed. Good, very good. Today, even if I have to ruin my cultivation, I will kill you. Otherwise, if I let you live, there will be no end of my future troubles. Huagong let out another shout. His body began to burn once again with the Red Lotus demonic inflammation. But this time, the Red Lotus demonic inflammation was much weaker. As the fiery snakes twisted around his body, Huagong spat out a mouthful of blood. He had already gone past his limit. I don't believe that you have the true essence to use that move again. Huagong tread both feet on the ground, and the charred land began to rupture. He rushed forwards, his blazing saber cutting forwards to take Lin Ming's head. At this moment of life or death, Lin Ming's mind was calm like ice. His right hand held out the heavy profound soft spear, and his left hand's thumb traced the spatial ring. He couldn't use Thunderfire Annihilation again, and it was also impossible for him to fend off Huagong's saber. Die for me. Huagong's saber chopped down. The hot air from the saber circled up into a violent tornado as it stirred up a scalding air current. Meanwhile, Lin Ming also thrust out his spear, flow like silk. 5,000 strands of fierce true essence gushed out like a tide towards Huagong, and in the midst of this torrent was mixed in a small blue bead. Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead. Bang! True essence detonated the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead. At the same time, Lin Ming immediately launched the golden rock, shattering the void movement ability, and flew backwards. In that flash, even the sun seemed to have lost all color. The countless dazzlingly bright rays were like golden swords that stabbed out in all directions. Lin Ming was struck by the shockwave of the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead in addition to the heatwave from Huagong's saber. Even though his physical body had been strengthened and he had the medium-grade human step purple gold flexible armor bestowed by the Crown Prince, his internal organs were still impacted by the terrifying backlash and he vomited blood. However, Huagong was even more miserable. He had almost run into the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead. The endless torrents of wanton explosive energy had recklessly fallen on Huagong's body. Under the previous severe wounds he had taken, the true essence that protected his body was already weakened to the point that it couldn't take a normal strike, so how could he possibly defend against such a violent explosion? Huagong's chest had been completely blown open into stringy pulp. His blood mixed with meat bits had been sent scattering about. Huagong was sent flying backwards until he struck a large tree, and with a harsh crashing sound, the thick trunk of the large tree was cracked in half by the force of the collision. Huagong was like a dead dog as he tumbled several dozen feet on the ground, before coming to a slow stop. His long saber spun in a few circles before it sunk into the ground. How could I, like this? Huagong was unwilling to admit this situation, and he tried to crawl up. However, his heart and lungs had already exploded within his chest. His blood stained the land and his life was slowly leaking away. I am actually going to die at an altering martial artist's hand. I refuse. Huagong reached out a hand as if he wanted to grasp the saber that had sunk into the ground. But then, he spat one last mouthful of blood and his body went limp. He had died. It was a pity that he didn't know that Lin Ming still possessed the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead. In addition to the severe wounds he had, his perception had also been dulled, otherwise he would have found the trap that had been hidden within Lin Ming's true essence. Alas, this was simply fate. Ouyang Dehua would never have dreamed that Lin Ming was able to comprehend his own unique martial skill that was almost the exact same as the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead. The result was that Ouyang Dehua had thought that Lin Ming had used the Thunderbolt Devilfire Bead as if he were enjoying it for fireworks. Catcher! The sky flashed with blood-red lightning. Soon after, it began to rain. The southern wilderness had a humid climate, and there were often thunderstorms. The torrential downpour of rain washed away the remaining vestiges of blood. Lin Ming dragged the heavy profound soft spear and limped over, wounded, to Huagong's side. After taking some healing pills, Lin Ming sat down in the middle of a mud puddle and let the pattering rain wash over his wounded body. "This rain actually helped me," Lin Ming quietly muttered to himself. After he was caught in the shockwaves from the explosions, his injuries were simply too heavy. In the southern wilderness, there were countless roaming vicious beasts. If blood drifted out, then it would certainly attract many vicious beasts here. With Lin Ming's current condition, if he had to face many vicious beasts, the outcome could be imagined. A life and death battle, that was too close. This was the first time that Lin Ming had ever killed another man. However, he didn't have any particular feelings towards this. He had chosen to travel down the path of martial artists. Sooner or later, he would have encountered situations where he would have to kill others. Lin Ming had long since come to terms with this reality. Not only that, but in the 10,000 killing array, when he had killed the phantom martial artists inside, that feeling had been completely real. There was no difference between that and actually killing someone. Lin Ming was very thankful that he had obtained the Thunderbolt Devilfire bead from his duel with Zhong Guanyu. In terms of power, the Thunderbolt Devilfire bead was slightly weaker than his own Thunderfire Annihilation. However, this time, Huagong's true essence protection had already been reduced to being no more defensive than paper, and thus was unable to block the fatal explosion from the Thunderbolt Devilfire bead. After a martial artist reached the pulse condensation period, their physical strength would not change too much. If they didn't have true essence protecting them, then a Hutian Realm Master and a pulse condensation period martial artist's defensive capabilities would be the same. Why did this person want to kill me? Who ordered him? Ouyang Dihua? Or was it the Allied Trade Association? Lin Ming recalled his meeting with Qin Zia. Bai Luo's illusion had simply been too profound, and his voice, appearance, temperament, and even body odor were all consistent with Qin Zia's. Even though Lin Ming's perception was much higher than a martial artist at the same level, he too was unable to see through it. But now that Lin Ming recalled the time he had faced Qin Zia, he remembered he had felt there was something off. This was just an intuition of his. As Huagong mentioned this a moment ago, Lin Ming suddenly realized what he had neglected. That was Zither Heart. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,